Chapter 1033. What a pity! You don't even need me to use all my trump cards. Chu Hen's aura soared to the heavens, and his brows were filled with arrogance. Even as he finished speaking, Chu Hen didn't even turn his head around. With a flip of his hand, he threw out the blue ran sword. Shing! With a loud and clear sword cry, the blue ran sword immediately turned into a sword rainbow that stunned the sky and shot out explosively. In an instant, it shot through the head of a huge shark-shaped beast that was pouncing over from behind, clean and efficient, stunning everyone present. Chu Hen stood high up in the sky, his gaze sweeping straight at Qi Ming, like stars and stars, fully displaying his youthful spirit. Everyone on Jade Spiral Island was greatly shocked. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, no one would have believed that Wu Xiu, who was only at the 7th level of the Heaven Profound Realm, could actually contend with an ancient Eternal Realm expert to such an extent. Especially that sentence, compared to Lei Aoqiong's Thunder Soul Sacred Physique, your so-called Giant Whale Sacred Physique is not just a little bit inferior. It was neither indifferent nor indifferent. His calm tone did not conceal the disdain. This caused everyone present to somewhat believe the authenticity of the incident that had been circulating in the eastern continent a few months ago. After a series of fierce battles, Qi Ming still wasn't able to take down Chu Hen. On the other hand, Chu Hen was becoming more and more courageous as he fought. The spectators in the distance were secretly shocked, and the way they looked at Chu Hen also changed again and again. This kid is indeed quite capable. The Eastern Continent's VIP judge, Gongsun Shao, narrowed his eyes and muttered in a low voice. On the side, Yang Yuan and Qi Yun looked at each other, and the latter said in a low voice, "Should we make a move? There's no rush." Gongsun Shao raised his hand slightly, and glanced at the patriarchs of the 4 great families of Whale Island City. "This kind of matter isn't for us to interfere. Let's wait and see first." "That's right." Yang Yuan also nodded. Moreover, City Lord Qi Ming may not necessarily lose. Based on the current situation, City Lord Qi Ming actually still has the upper hand. Before Qi Ming gave the order, the Shui family, Lu family, Shen family, and Meng family, the 4 great families of Whale Island City, were merely spectators. At this moment, the young geniuses from the other powers had all been reduced to supporting characters. His strength is indeed not bad. But if he wants to defeat Qi Ming, who is in the Eternal Realm, I'm afraid that's just wishful thinking. The eyes of the martial arts genius of Zhongyuan Castle, Zhui Yuehan, narrowed as he said subconsciously, "You can't compare to him." However, right at this moment, Su Lingzhu spoke in a light voice. Hearing this, Zhui Yuehan was stunned. He looked at Su Lingzhu's calm and beautiful face in astonishment. "What did you just say?" Su Lingzhu slightly shook her head, her beautiful eyes flowing with a hint of flirtatiousness. She said, "Regardless of whether Chu Hen wins or loses, you're no match for him." A slap in the face. This time, not only was Zhui Yuehan stunned, even the young geniuses of Zhongyuan Castle looked at each other in dismay. They couldn't understand why Su Lingzhu, who had always been so quiet, would suddenly say something like that. Just who was on the same side as whom? What right do you have to say that I'm no match for him? Zhui Yuehan was slightly displeased. He's just lucky. If I had a divine item like the Black Killer's Divine Lightning, I would also be undefeatable in the face of an Eternal Realm expert. Su Lingzhu sighed softly, but still shook her head lightly. "It seems that you don't know what I'm actually talking about. There's no need for me to return to Zhongyuan Castle with you." After saying this, Su Lingzhu actually walked to the other side, not the slightest ripple in her eyes. "You!" Zhui Yuehan furrowed his brows. He felt that it was inexplicable, and he was a little annoyed. However, he was too proud and arrogant to think that Su Lingzhu was just being emotional for a moment. He didn't take it too seriously. His cold eyes swept over the 2 powerful figures who were confronting each other above the sea, and a faint, scorching light flickered faintly in his eyes. Humph! Black Killer's divine lightning on the square of Jade Spiral Island. The chaotic battle between the guards of the City Lord's mansion and Mu Feng, Han Ichuan, Yi Yao, and the others continued to blossom. One colorful true yuan collided fiercely like divine rainbows and holy lights. The heaven and earth lost color, chi waves flew everywhere, layer after layer of the earth cracked, and rocks flew wantonly like a swarm of locusts. The demonic sword in Mu Feng's hand rose with a demonic blue flame, and every strike of the sword contained the power of a thunderbolt. Like a ferocious beast, he rushed into the crowd of enemies and slashed wildly, like a dragon in the sea, or a ferocious tiger coming down the mountain. The guards were blown away one after another, and fell heavily on the ground, although the group of people brought by Chu Hen were all experts of the profound sky realm. But the City Lord's mansion did not lack experts who were stronger than them. Among them, there were 2 or 3 commander-level guards and a few elders who had reached the 5th or 6th level of the profound sky realm. Apart from Han Ichuan and Xiao Shaowan, who could resist a little, the others could not fight head-on at all. And at this time, as a top inscription master, Shifeng Zi could be said to be a super support. Every time the experts of the City Lord's mansion launched a powerful attack, all kinds of strange inscription techniques would quietly appear under their feet. It was obviously a frontal attack, but strangely, it hit empty air. The solid ground under their feet was just a second ago, but in the next second it was covered with thorns. In addition to disrupting the enemy's attack, Shifeng Zi would also give everyone a powerful armor. Between attack and defense, it could be said that he controlled the whole situation. And because Shifeng Zi was here, Chu Hen did not have to worry about any problems at all. There's actually an expert here. Master Forger Qi Yun frowned. Such a strong Reiki energy fluctuation, this person's cultivation, I'm afraid, is not lower than Brother Gongsun. Yang Yuan also sensed it, and a trace of caution surged between his brows. And Gongsun Xiao, who had reached the half-step zone stage, looked at Shifeng Zi, who was in the field, with a slightly gloomy gaze. After pondering for a while, Gongsun Xiao's tone was a little doubtful. This person looks a little familiar, but I can't think of where I've seen him before. Oh! Yang Yuan and Qi Yun looked at each other, and both saw the shock in each other's eyes. Boom! On Jade Spiral Island, the most intense collision was the battle between the Yin-Yang beast Noni and the Deep-Sea Devourer. The two beasts were fighting for their own masters. Although the Yin-Yang beast Noni's body was less than 1/10 of the Devourer's tentacle, the former's speed was as fast as lightning, and his movements were nimble and ever-changing. He was like a thread threading a needle as he entangled the Devourer's tentacle with incomparable ferocity. This beast has actually grown so powerful? The patriarch of the Liu family, who was watching the battle from afar, frowned and revealed a look of bewilderment. Everyone in Whale Island City knew this. 3 years ago, when Qi Juexin had stepped into the Heavenly Pattern Master realm, the Liu family had inadvertently obtained a yin-yang beast cub, and thus presented it to Qi Juexin as a congratulatory gift. In these 3 years, Qi Juexin had only raised it as a pet. He did not spend too much time digging into the other attributes of Noni. Apart from knowing that it could control a certain amount of yin and yang energy, he had not actually tested its fighting strength. After all, it was something given by others, and to the proud Qi Juexin, whose heart was higher than the sky, its value would not be too high. Who would have thought that the yin-yang beast had secretly grown to the point where it could fight against a 6th-grade heavenly beast, the Devourer beast? If he had known this earlier, Qi Juexin would definitely not have been willing to abandon it. Damn bastards! A cold glint flashed in Qi Juexin's eyes. It was all because of these people. If it wasn't for them, he would already be sitting firmly on the champion seat of the Heavenly Talisman battle. He would not have been in such a sorry state like this. Kill them! Qi Juexin shouted sternly. The Devourer beast let out a long, piercing howl, and all its tentacles shot out at the same time, like many sturdy giant vines. Hoo hoo hoo, a biting cold gale whistled past, and the dozen or so tentacles were like a giant net, directly blocking all of the yin-yang beast's escape routes. Then, every tentacle wrapped tightly like a ball of vines, instantly trapping the yin-yang beast. Noni! Yi Yao's pretty face turned pale, and her delicate eyebrows were full of anxiety. Stop her! Qi Jueqin shouted. A few guards of the city lord's mansion immediately attacked with cold spears in their hands. Each of them was filled with killing intent, and their eyes were cold as they rushed towards Yi Yao. The cold spear's momentum was like a swimming dragon, and there was a thunderous sound. Yi Yao struck out with her palm, but it was difficult to defend against the joint attack of several people. The heavy power surged out, and Yi Yao was forced to retreat continuously. He. Qi Jueqin revealed a sinister smile. Beasts that betray their masters will not have a good ending, along with a cold laugh. The strange patterns on the devourer beast's body actually twisted, and then like the mouth of a man-eating flower, a huge abyssal mouth suddenly split open on the devourer beast's head, the petal-like lips opened wide, and there were rows of sharp teeth on them. Hua! The airflow between heaven and earth continuously surged, like a whale sucking in water. The dust and rocks on the square were all violently pulled, and all rushed towards the devourer beast's huge mouth. The dark light-patterned cyclone rotated rapidly, and the devourer beast's huge mouth was like an eternal abyss of hell. The devourer beast let out a high-pitched cry, and the tentacles that were wrapped around the yin-yang beast quickly approached the big mouth. Stop! Yi Yao was shocked and angry. Is that possible? Qi Jueqin laughed strangely, pleased with himself. As soon as he finished speaking, an extremely powerful yin and yang qi suddenly spread out from the center of the devourer beast's tentacles. Beams of black and white light, like sharp swords that pierce through the clouds, continuously pierced through the gaps of the entangled tentacles. Everyone in the room was shocked. Immediately, a Tai Chi yin-yang diagram appeared between heaven and earth. The diagram rotated, stirring the airflow in all directions. Bang! With a loud noise, the entangled tentacles of the devourer beast were like a ball of vines that had been stretched open, and the extremely violent yin and yang qi swirled around like wind blades. Yi Yao's eyes lit up, and a look of pleasant surprise appeared on her face. Surrounded by the yin and yang qi, the body of the yin-yang beast grew again to 50 to 60 meters wide, and it was extremely domineering. Roar! The yin-yang beast roared to the sky, and thousands of light beams burst out from its body. The black and white light beams were like divine swords that cut through the wind. In an instant, all the tentacles that were wrapped around it were shaken off, and some of them were even directly cut off. So powerful! Everyone watching the battle from afar was shocked. Especially the master of the Liu family. His brows were tightly knitted, and he was extremely shocked. If he had known this would happen, he would have kept the yin-yang beast for himself. Now, not only did Qi Jueqin not know what was good for him, but he also made a wedding dress for someone else. Roar! Then, the yin-yang beast stared coldly at the devourer beast, opened its mouth, and a ball of yin and yang energy blended from its mouth. Buzz! The space suddenly trembled, and the energy ball with a diameter of more than 10 meters, like a mysterious yin and yang wheel, pierced through the air, and heavily bombarded the huge body of the devourer beast. Boom! In an instant the earth shook, and the whole jade spiral island was shaking uneasily. The ground of the square was flipped over layer by layer, and cracked. The incomparably violent yin and yang qi was like a mountain torrent, and it poured out from the devourer beast's body, like a meteorite from outer space hitting a mountain, and set off a huge wave. A part of the devourer beast's body suddenly caved in, and blood continuously spurted out. Its tentacles waved wildly, as if it had gone mad. Zeng! At this moment, Long Xuan, who was at the back, had unknowingly pulled a crystal-clear longbow that looked like it was made of ice. Streams of flowing ice chi revolved around her fingertips, and quickly gathered on the bowstring, condensing into an ice arrow. That is? Xian Yu Bao? Master Blacksmith Qi Yun frowned, and he couldn't help but blurt out. Xian Yu Bao? The treasure of the mysterious ice sect? This woman is from the mysterious ice sect. Shock, astonishment. Xian Yu Bao. When the ancient desolation heaven realm opened, the sect leader of the mysterious ice sect had already handed this Xian Yu Bao to Long Xuanshuang. Without any hesitation, Long Xuanshuang raised her phoenix eyes, and her fingertips that were holding the bowstring instantly loosened. Zing! With a light sound, the bowstring trembled, and the ice arrow was like a meteor that drew a powerful light in the air. Xiao! In the process of moving, the ice arrow rapidly enlarged, and along with the bone-chilling cold that was constantly being released, 100-meter-long ice arrow directly hit the devourer beast's mountain-like body under countless shocked gazes. Boom! Blood splattered, and a pillar of light pierced through the sky. The incomparably sharp arrow forcibly pierced through the devourer beast's body, and a miserable and powerless cry resounded through the entire square. The Xian Yu Bao's power of ice quickly froze its blood. Chapter 1034. Bang! The devourer beast's body was pierced by the mystic Rain Bao's ice arrow, and it fell heavily to the ground, smashing into countless pieces. Whoosh! Heavy and chilly waves of air swept out in all directions like a tidal wave. Everyone present was extremely shocked, especially Qi Juexin. His eyes glowed with a sinister red light as he watched the devourer beast perish on the spot. Kill them all! Don't leave a single one alive! The successive setbacks had already caused this outstanding and high-spirited young city lord to lose his rationality. He shouted at the 4 patriarchs. What are you still doing? Kill them! The 4 patriarchs' hearts trembled. Seeing this, they immediately summoned their subordinate. Assist the young city lord in subduing the enemy, yes! In an instant, more than half of Whale Island City's experts joined the battle. The city lord's mansion and the 4 great clans had joined forces. This was something that had never happened before in history. The development and changes of the situation couldn't help but worry the others present. Jade Spiral Island grew more and more chaotic as all kinds of fierce forces collided and intersected. Shifeng Zi played the role of the strongest support amidst the chaotic battle, firmly controlling the rhythm and ensuring everyone's safety. Kill that old fella first. The experts of Whale Island City weren't fools. They quickly understood that the main reason why these people could hold out for so long was Shifeng Zi's existence. Immediately, more than 10 experts crossed the plaza and charged at Shifeng Zi. Senior, Haozi hurriedly reminded. Shifeng Zi raised his old eyes slightly and replied indifferently. Just take care of yourselves. Humph, with that, he chuckled. Reiki energy suffused with dense fluorescent light surged out of Shifeng Zi's Naiwen Palace. A steady aura pressed down like a mountain. Shifeng Zi crossed his arms and pushed outwards, releasing a majestic wave of energy. Boom! In the next moment, the ground around Shifeng Zi suddenly burst open. Like an octopus that had crawled out of a hole in the ground, strong branches and leaves quickly extended out from the ground. Rocks crumbled and the earth cracked. In the blink of an eye, 4 towering trees over 1,000 feet tall appeared around Shifeng Zi. Every tree was bright and beautiful, luxurious and resplendent. Their branches and leaves swayed with a sparkling luster. The trunks of the trees were covered with beautiful spell symbols. Shifeng Zi was standing in the middle of the 4 towering trees, and was protected from all directions. Get out here! The dozen or so experts of Whale Island City shouted sternly as powerful auras erupted from their bodies. However, at the same time, the 4 great trees simultaneously released an incomparably dazzling radiance, as if the stars were illuminating the sun. The pupils of all the experts of Whale Island City rapidly shrank to the size of a needle, as if they had been blinded, and all they could see was a field of white light, swish, 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 A black vine-like object flickered in the white light as it hurriedly tore through the wind and attacked. The experts were startled and quickly retreated. Retreat! Of course, how could Shifeng Zi give them the chance to retreat? The black vines flashed past like lightning, lashing at the newcomers one after another. Crackle! A series of crisp sounds rang out, mixed with cries of pain. The light released by the 4 great trees weakened, and the dozen or so experts of Whale Island City were already sent flying. Every one of them was covered in whip marks, dripping with fresh blood. The wounds were so deep that they reached their bones. It could be said that they weren't vicious. In the distance, Gongsun Shao, Qi Yun and Yang Yuan looked at each other in astonishment. The former frowned deeply and spat out a few words in a heavy tone. Another. Immortal talisman tree, immortal talisman tree. A second tree. During the 3rd round of the heavenly talisman battle, Gongsun Shao had vaguely sensed the aura of an immortal talisman tree from the Reiki energy released by Chu Hen. And now, another immortal talisman tree had appeared in Whale Island City. One had to know that such a sacred object was extremely difficult to find. It could only be found in the celestial talisman domain in the extreme south. Today, 2 immortal talisman trees had appeared at the same time. It was hard not to be shocked. Amidst their shock, Gongsun Shao, Qi Yun and Yang Yuan could not help but sink into deep thought. Their gloomy and dark eyes faintly flickered with a scorching luster. Boom! The sky above the sea was dyed red with blood. Another crocodile-shaped beast had died under Chu Hen's sword. Broken pieces of blood rained down from the sky, dyeing the seawater red. The entire Whale Island City has joined forces to deal with less than 10 of us. City Lord Qi Ming is indeed domineering. Chu Hen flickered in the air. His sword aura overlapped as he let out a series of startled cries. Hearing Chu Hen's mockery, Qi Ming's eyes turned cold, and a look of disdain appeared on his face. Humph, what difference does it make if a few people make a move? You're destined to die, Jade Sea facing Sky Palm. Whoosh! Qi Ming stepped on the air, and a majestic aura swept over like a mountain. Behind him, huge waves surged to the sky, and the surging tsunami could topple mountains and overturn the seas. Rumble, the sky changed color, and wind and rain assaulted. A huge palm descended from the sky. Like the hand of a god, it pressed down on Chu Hen's head. Chu Hen was neither flustered nor flustered. He raised his palm to the sky, and the unpredictable 7-star sacred radiance flowed in his palm. The luxurious and resplendent starlight intersected, and the light of the 7 stars floated like the radiance of the bright moon. Bang! The 2 different forces of the palm intersected like mountains and stars. In the sky above the sea, it was as if the 9 heavens galaxy had exploded. The mighty torrent and huge waves covered the sky and rolled wantonly. The sky above the entire sea suddenly ushered in an unprecedented destructive storm. Humph! A cold glint flashed across Qi Tong's eyes. Looking at Chu Hen, who was in the middle of the raging waves, he sneered in disdain. I'll let you experience the true might of the giant whale's sacred body. Moo! It was like a melodious bell, but also like a majestic bugle call. In an instant, the rolling waves continued to rush up to the sky, and Chu Hen was trapped under the tsunami tide. In the waves, the ghostly whale's shadow was looming, swimming around quickly, stirring the seawater, forming a huge whirlpool. The storm and thunder were earth-shattering. In the whirlpool, Chu Hen was like a small boat, vast and insignificant. This momentum is really terrifying. Feeling the terrifying aura emanating from Qi Ming, the people on Jade Spiral Island could not help but change their expressions. Su Lingzu, Song Xiu, Jing Shu, and the others all had solemn expressions. Zhui Yuan narrowed his eyes and murmured in a low voice, it seems that the Xian Sha Divine Thunder can't save your life. Clang! In the sky, thunder and lightning intertwined. In the blink of an eye, the soaring whirlpool had risen to a height of thousands of feet. It had a kind of momentum that was about to reach the Milky Way, and even the sky was about to be pierced. In the whirlpool, whale shadows flashed incessantly with ferocious fangs. The layers of water, in the process of rotating at high speed, became more distinct and incomparably sharp, like layers of stacked guillotine blades. I said, "This is my territory. No one can save you." Qi Ming's momentum increased exponentially. He stretched out both of his palms, continuously bursting with a shocking power. Under his control, the area covered by the whirlpool shrank rapidly, and the layers of steel blade-like water currents were compressed towards the center. Ferocious whale shadows also shot out like sharp arrows, combining with the compressed water blades and rushing towards Chu Hen. Whirlpool water blade. Endless destructive aura rapidly crushed towards Chu Hen, and the entire whirlpool was instantly turned into a space of death. The incomparably sharp rotating water blades and the ferocious and cruel whale shadows attacked at the same time. This kind of power was enough to crush any profound heaven's realm wuxio into pieces. Buzz! Suddenly, a demonic purple light bloomed in Chu Hen's eyes. Boom! Then, an equally powerful purple flame burst out between heaven and earth. Ice-cold purple flames revolved around Chu Hen's body, forming a majestic tornado. The direction of the tornado and the direction of the whirlpool formed a direct opposition. Once the two collided, the sky and the earth suddenly cracked, and the sea turned upside down. Demonic flame, tornado. Bang! Boom! A series of heavy explosions exploded in the sky above the sea. The incomparably violent power was like the eruption of a deep-sea volcano, sweeping in all directions. The sky darkened, and the wind and clouds changed dramatically. The huge whirlpool compressed rapidly, striking the purple tornado inside. Looking from afar, it was like two terrifying nebulae, one water, one fire, colliding and intertwining. Layers of earth-shaking tsunami waves surged up to Jade Spiral Island. The majestic rain almost swallowed the island. Everyone on the island ran back, and the chaotic battle on the square also stopped. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the sky above the sea. Water and fire collided, setting off a vast blue wave. "Humph, you think you can stop it?" Qi Ming shouted, his eyes full of killing intent. "Go to hell, whoosh!" As soon as he finished speaking, several huge blue whales directly flew out of the whirlpool. The giant whales, with the momentum of fierce beasts, continuously hit the purple tornado. Bang, bang! In an instant, the whole purple tornado suddenly burst from the middle, and the terrifying whirlpool directly swallowed the momentum of the flames. Layers of water blades stirred and waved, and the rising purple flames were scattered. "It's over?" The hearts of everyone on Jade Spiral Isle trembled when they saw this scene. Such a bitingly cold whirlpool storm, Chu Hen had no way to survive. Boom! But at the moment when the demonic flame storm was completely extinguished, a huge gap suddenly exploded in the monstrous whirlpool. What? Everyone in the room was shocked. The eyes of Long Xuanxuang, Yiyao, Mu Feng, and the others also lit up. Chu Hen's body was covered in an armor that overflowed with brilliant lights. He broke through the layers of huge waves in a flash. The armor glowed with a strange purple light, and a pair of light wings spread out behind him. On the light wings, there was a pattern of a demonic eye. Looking at this armor, everyone on Jade Spiral Island was shocked again. The armor of punishment, injury. It was the armor that broke Qi Juexin's 100-piercing holy sword and won the championship of the Heavenly Talisman battle. Seeing this scene, everyone was once again shocked by the powerful defense of this armor. Whoosh! Accompanied by a resonant sword cry and a sharp wind-breaking sound, a bolt of lightning streaked across the horizon. Chu Hen instantly appeared in front of Qi Tong. Unparalleled sword momentum surged out. Chu Hen's eyes were like torches, and he held his sword to the sky. He looked coldly at Qi Ming's gloomy face, the corners of his mouth raised into a frivolous sneer. Chapter 1035. Boom! An incomparably heavy and earth-shattering noise burst out between heaven and earth. The storm of water and fire blended above the sea, stirring up heaven and earth and shaking the heavenly river. The fire of the evil flame and the waterfall blade collided violently, setting off a majestic wave that rushed into the sky. Whirlpool Water Blade. Qi Ming's ultimate killing move showed the power to destroy everything. However, such a terrifying and destructive killing move, under the protection of Chu Hen's punishment armor, broke through a huge gap in the whirlpool storm. Bang! A big hole was directly smashed on the whirlpool storm. Flowing light and vibrant colors, Chu Hen's sword momentum soared to the sky, and his eyes were like torches. Like a bolt of lightning, he swept across the sky, filled with shocking power, and instantly arrived in front of Qi Ming. The hearts of everyone on Jade's Spiral Island trembled. At that very instant, anyone could feel the extraordinary grandeur that originated from Chu Hen's body. Flying immortal sword, in an instant, the murderous aura of death came from all directions, directly sealing Qi Ming in a fixed space. The latter's pupils shrank tightly, and his sharp eyes reflected Chu Hen's handsome face with a hint of playfulness. The blue Ran sword danced, and Chu Hen's figure immediately turned into a dreamy overlapping shadow. Swish, 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 accompanied by the rapid breaking of the wind, more than a dozen incomparably sharp humanoid sword Qi suddenly flashed in front of Qi Ming. More than a dozen humanoid sword Qi in the air, like phantoms, flew straight toward Qi Ming's body. Qi Ming's body was immediately fixed in place, and each humanoid sword Qi penetrated his body without any hindrance. A cold sword light dyed the sky. Watching the last humanoid sword Qi like a flowing light across the sky, and when it turned into Chu Hen, everyone on the entire Jade Spiral Island turned pale with fright. What a terrifying sword move! Almost at the same time, Qi Ming's limbs were rapidly separating from his body. However, his face was filled with a strange smile. What a pity, what? The hearts of everyone present trembled once more. Bang! With a muffled sound, Qi Ming's body instantly exploded into a cloud of water mist and raindrops. It's the water clone. The head of the Lu family on the square of Biluo Island couldn't help but exclaim. The other three patriarchs, as well as Gongsun Shao, Yang Yuan, and Qi Yun, couldn't help but narrow their eyes. Before everyone could react, an incomparably huge black shadow suddenly fell from the sky, like a falling meteorite, rapidly shrouding the sky above Chu Hen's head. Chu Hen raised his gaze, and what entered his eyes was a huge mouth that was like a bottomless abyss. Moo! In the next instant, the huge mouth closed in midair, directly swallowing Chu Hen into its stomach. Bang! Accompanied by a monstrous wave that rose hundreds of meters into the sky, the huge beast jumped heavily into the water, and immediately caused a huge commotion. Big Brother Chu Hen, Yi Yao and the others on the island were all shocked. It was a huge whale ferocious beast that was 1,000 meters long. As it surged in the sea, it was like an unstoppable huge ship. Unlike ordinary whales, this giant whale's entire body was covered in thick scales. Under the illumination of the light, it glistened and flickered with a dazzling light. As expected of the city lord, that guy will never see the light of day again. Once he enters the belly of the whale, he can forget about coming out. It's finally over. The third lord of the victorious East Province is only SOSO. The citizens of Whale Island City heaved a sigh of relief. The one who had the last laugh was still their city lord, their supreme king. Humph, this ending isn't beyond my expectations. The martial Dao genius of Zhongyuan Castle, Zhui Yuehan, sneered and raised his eyebrows at Su Lingzu. Su Lingzu ignored him, as if she didn't see him. The one who was the most pleased was none other than the young city lord, Qi Juexin. Ha 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 ha! Qi Juexin laughed wantonly, his whole body emitting the arrogance of a victor. His eyes turned cold as he pointed at Yi Yao, Long Xuanshuang, Mu Feng and the others and sneered, "You motley crew, hurry up and surrender. This young master will make you regret coming here." Everyone's faces turned cold and their anger soared. Han Ichuan shouted, "Humph, disgraceful thing, do you think you're fit to be so arrogant in front of me? I'm looking forward to seeing how arrogant you can be later. Take them down for this young master, and that beast, skin it for me, yes." The guards' morale was high, and their killing intent was awe-inspiring. Qi Jueqin had a contemptuous and mocking smile on his face, as if he could already see the scene of the crowd begging for mercy. Boom! But at this moment, the sea in front of them once again surged with monstrous waves. The giant whale had actually rushed out of the water and leaped high into the sky. Everyone was shocked. There were dark blue electric arcs swimming around the giant whale's body. An extremely restless aura was condensing and surging within the giant whale's body, like the undercurrents in the deep sea or the magma in a volcano. Crack! In the next second, a dazzling dark blue pillar of lightning suddenly shot out from the back of the giant whale. The dazzling pillar of lightning was like a bone spur that pierced through flesh and blood, forcibly breaking through the body of the giant whale, wantonly moving around. Moo! The giant whale suddenly let out a painful and miserable cry. Before everyone could react to what had happened, a powerful roar filled with vigor resounded between heaven and earth. "Thousand thunder escape! Thousand thunder escape, Qi! Ku!" In an instant, one after another, pillars of lightning pierced through the giant whale's mountain-like body, like the holy light of dawn that pierced through the clouds. Scarlet blood constantly splashed out, and the lightning was as sharp as a heavenly blade, wantonly flying around, reflecting the sky. The disorderly pillars of lightning were like large wooden stakes that pierced through the sky. Sharp, peerless aura. Each pillar of lightning flickered with bright cold electric arcs, and the aura was comparable to that of a lightning dragon or an electric python. This guy? Looking at this scene, everyone on Jade Spiral Island was stunned. Even Mu Feng, Long Xuanxuang Haozi, and the others were stunned. Even they did not know that Chu Hen had mastered such a terrifying and powerful killing technique. Hiss! Under everyone's shocked gazes, a sharp electric blade directly cut through the center of the giant whale's abdomen, all the way to its upper body. The giant whale's sturdy scales could not withstand a single blow from the mysterious killer divine thunder. The whale's flesh was cut open, and a rain of blood splattered in the air. Whoosh! A figure surrounded by dark blue lightning once again appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Standing in the center of the many lightning pillars, Chu Hen was in high spirits, and his imposing appearance made him look like an ancient wizard who controlled the lightning tribulation. Roar! A powerless scream came from the giant whale's mouth as it slowly fell like a mountain. At the same time as the giant whale's corpse fell, Chu Hen's eyes flickered with sharp silver electric light, and he said coldly, "What a pity! I will take your life." Hiss! As soon as he finished speaking, the blue sky sword, which was wrapped in a manic lightning glow, was like a flowing light shuttle that had been traveling for 1,000 years. It shot out like a divine rainbow, and once again struck the head of the giant whale corpse that was falling. Bang! The giant whale's head was directly penetrated by the incomparably powerful sword energy. Hiss! The blue Ran sword, which was swaying with electric light, pierced through the rain of blood, and along with it, a terrified and panicked figure. Hua! Oh my God! In an instant, the entire world seemed to fall into endless darkness. Qi Ming's body had been hiding in the giant whale's head all this time. The jade Ran sword pierced through Qi Tong's chest, and with an incomparably cold momentum, Qi Tong was dragged downwards. Everyone was dumbfounded. They felt as if a thunderbolt had exploded in their minds. Chu Hen's sword not only found Qi Ming's position, but also caught him unprepared. Blood spurted out of Qi Ming's mouth, and his body bent into an arc. The black figure rapidly fell in the direction of Jade Spiral Island. Bang! With a loud sound, Qi Ming smashed heavily into the host's grandstand at the back of the plaza. Behind him was his city lord's seat, as well as the panic-stricken Whale Island city's 4 great family heads and their many subjects. The blue Ran sword pierced through Qi Ming's body, and was firmly nailed into the stone wall. Qi Ming was battered and exhausted, and his eyes were filled with hatred and powerlessness. Whoosh! Chapter 1036. Buzz, a circle of majestic air waves stacked up on the ground, and the sound of rushing wind swept past. The entire Jade Spiral Island fell into an unprecedented dead silence. Shock, and boundless shock. Everyone felt somewhat dazed as they watched this scene unfold before their eyes. Everyone felt as if they were dreaming of a lifetime ago. The blue Ran sword was like a sharp wooden stake. It pierced through City Lord Qi Ming's body and nailed him firmly to the ground, rendering him unable to move. Fresh blood flowed out of the wound. Qi Ming's hair was disheveled, and his face was flushed red. He didn't even have the slightest bit of the domineering arrogance of a ruler of Whale Island City. The chaotic storm and waterfall that shrouded the heavens and earth gradually dissipated. Under the gorgeous sunlight, Chu Hen's figure was as dazzling as a god of war, and no one dared to look at him directly. The four patriarchs, as well as the citizens of Whale Island City, felt as if the sky had collapsed. Their king had been defeated. He had been utterly defeated. He had been defeated so miserably. Those who had looked down on Chu Hen and talked about the untrustworthy rumors of the Greater East Province had all been ruthlessly slapped in the face. The words "the third lord of the Greater East Province is only SOSO" had just been said, and the supreme king of Whale Island City had fallen in such a sorry state in front of everyone. At this moment, everyone was silent, and their hearts trembled. "Are you trembling?" The corner of Chu Hen's mouth rose, and he looked at the deathly pale Qi Juexin with a playful gaze. At this moment, the usually omnipotent and outstanding young city lord was like a dog in Chu Hen's eyes, completely unsightly. "You!" Qi Juexin was panic-stricken. The moment Qi Ming had been defeated, he felt as if he had fallen into a bottomless ice cave. He had fallen from the peak to the bottom. All of his hopes were extinguished, turning into bubbles. Chu Hen slowly raised his gaze. The formless aura he emitted was like a sharp blade that pressed against Qi Juexin's heart. Qi Juexin's body involuntarily trembled. He looked at Qi Ming. Only now did Qi Juexin realize that without Qi Ming, he was so weak that he couldn't even stand up to a gust of wind. What do you want?" Qi Juexin's voice was trembling. "What do you think, young city lord Qi?" Chu Hen jokingly replied. Qi Juexin tried his best to hide the fear in his heart, but the more he tried, the more uneasy he felt. Especially when he saw Chu Hen's indifferent and playful gaze, it was like the gaze of a demon from the Nine Serenities hell. Just a moment ago, the god of victory was on their side. These people should have become his prisoners. This was Whale Island City. This was his, Qi Juexin's, world. Now, his place was facing an unprecedented threat. Such a threat could be said to be fatal. You, why are you still standing there? Kill him, hurry up and kill him for me." Flustered and furious, Qi Juexin suddenly shouted at the guards of the city lord's residence and the people from the four great families. "Qi!" Before he finished speaking, four incomparably sharp blades of lightning suddenly tore through the air. Qi Juexin's pupils shrank, and he did not even have the time to dodge. The four blades of lightning chased after him and instantly chopped at his shoulders and knees. Hiss! A series of dazzling splatters of blood swayed in the air. Everyone's hearts trembled violently as they watched Qi Juexin's limbs fly off and scatter randomly on the ground. A miserable scream, like that of a pig being slaughtered, pierced everyone's eardrums. City Lord Qi Ming's eyes were wide open in anger, and his face was filled with intense hatred and resentment. He looked at the struggling Qi Juexin on the ground, then glared viciously at Chu Hen and bellowed in an incomparably deep voice. Stop, however, Chu Hen did not even spare Qi Ming a glance. With another wave of his hand, a condensed wisp of qi directly streaked across Qi Juexin's throat. The miserable scream came to an abrupt end, and Qi Juexin's round eyes were filled with darkness. He collapsed powerlessly on his back, his lips parted like a dead fish that had been deprived of oxygen. Only now did he fully understand how big of a mistake he had made when he provoked Chu Hen on the flowing cloud golden boat. Because of this mistake, his death was merely the interest. Perhaps the entire city lord's residence would suffer a calamity soon. He was filled with regret. He was filled with hatred. Under countless gazes filled with fear, Qi Juxin breathed his last, dying with everlasting regret. The once-in-a-century genius of Whale Island City had been reduced to a dead dog. Without the slightest hesitation, Chu Hen's actions were ruthless and resolute. Buzz. A tense and heavy atmosphere pervaded the entire Jade Spiral Island. City Lord Qi Ming's lips moved slightly, as if he had aged several decades in an instant. Then, Qi Ming's face revealed an incomparably strange and resentful smile. Heh, how long do you think you can live? The strange laughter had an indescribable meaning. Qi Ming grinned, his blood-stained lips as cold as a ghost. Chu Hen, right? Heh. You guys better run faster, they're coming. Run faster? Them? They are coming? Everyone present was startled by his words. What was going on? What was the other party talking about? Yi Yao, Long Xuan, Mu Feng, Han Yichuan, and the others all looked at each other in bewilderment. However, Qi Ming was still glaring at Chu Hen, as if he wanted to turn all the resentment in his heart into a piercing glare. The corners of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed, a faint chill surging between his brows. Qi Ming laughed again. It seems you already know, then, all of you, just wait for death. Ha 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 ha. Humph. Before his laughter died away, Chu Hen raised his palm, and a powerful energy wave spread out. Hiss, along with a string of blood, the blue ran sword stabbed into Qi Ming's chest was pulled out. Qi Ming's body trembled, and before he could recover from the severe pain, Chu Hen's deep eyes immediately burst out with a piercingly cold light. Very good last words. Along with his words, Chu Hen held the sword with one hand and swung it backhand. Whoosh! The impassioned sword cry caused everyone's heartstrings to tremble. The cold light of the sword dyed the eyebrows, and the sword arc that was like a crescent moon stunned the world. Hiss! In an instant, a bright column of blood sprayed high into the sky, and Qi Ming's head immediately flew out. Clang! Such a dreamy scene immediately caused everyone present to feel as if a bolt of lightning had exploded in their minds. The entire world's sky instantly fell into endless darkness. Chapter 1037. Hiss! It was like a dream, stunning the world. The cold light of the sword dyed both his eyebrows. Chu Hen's eyes were like the stars as he wielded his sword. The dazzling sword light that resembled the flowing light of the dark night seemed to have traced back countless years of time. The impassioned and sharp sound pierced the eardrums of everyone present. A dazzling red pillar of blood sprayed high into the sky. Under the incomparably shocked gazes of countless people, Qi Ming's head was immediately separated from his neck and sent flying. Rumble! In an instant, everyone on Jade Spiral Island felt the world darken, especially the citizens of Whale Island City. It was as if the entire world had collapsed. Everything in their eyes lost its gorgeous luster. Under the cover of the gloomy shadow, the decapitated body continuously assaulted everyone's visual nerves. The faces of the 4 clan heads turned deathly pale, losing their original color. Even the 3 VIP judges, Gongsun Xiao, Yang Yuan, and Qi Yun, were shocked and frightened. You. The voice of the Liu family's clan head trembled. He was just about to ask Chu Hen why he had to kill him, but the cold aura emanating from the sword in his opponent's hand caused him to swallow the rest of his words. The city lord was killed. The young city lord was killed. This was the heaviest blow to the entire Whale Island City. Furthermore, it was done in front of all the citizens of Whale Island City. This was an indescribable sorrow and humiliation. Not long ago, Jade Spiral Island was still reverberating with jubilant cries of Lord City Lord, wise and mighty, unparalleled under the heavens, master of the 4 seas, eternal and everlasting. Last month, the city lord, Qi Ming, had broken through the shackles of the sky profound realm and stepped into the immemorial realm. In the eyes of the world, this was like a blessing from the heavens. Whale Island City was bound to prosper for 1,000 generations, never to decline. Who could have expected that in the highly anticipated Heavenly Talisman battle, the City Lord's reign of power would come to an end? Everything returned to nothingness, and all of this was thanks to the young man in front of them. Victorious East Province, Chu Hen, the third lord of the province. At this moment, he was as dazzling as the bright moon and stars. Everything else was just his background. Lu Yen, the genius of the Lu family, was completely panicked. He was almost scared out of his wit. Chu Hen's strength had already caused Lu Yen to not even dare to harbor any resentment. Losing his left arm was even more worthless. Qi Juexin, you've really screwed me over this time. Lu Yen laughed bitterly at himself. Now, he only hoped that Chu Hen would not continue to trouble him. A city lord had been killed. Yet, not a single person from the other clans in Whale Island City dared to step forward. This was a great irony. Shortly after, Chu Hen raised his head indifferently and glanced at the four patriarchs. Their faces paled once more. It was as if they had come into contact with the gaze of the Grim Reaper. They did not even have the courage to look him in the eye. "Who wants us to stay?" His calm voice was devoid of any emotion. Everyone was silent. The corners of Chu Hen's mouth curled up. Then, he turned to face Yi Yao, Shifeng Zi, Mu Feng and the others. They understood his intentions. Immediately, everyone left the square and headed for the waters by the sea. Buzz soon after, along with a strong energy fluctuation, a golden airship about 100 meters long appeared in the sky above Jade Spiral Island's waters. In a strange and deathly silent atmosphere, the airship flew towards the azure sky and gradually disappeared from everyone's sight. They left. The people of Jade Spiral Island gradually came back to their senses. Looking at the two miserable corpses on the messy square, they felt sad and desolate. This guy is really ruthless. The genius of Zhongyuan Castle, Song Xiu, shook his head and sighed. On the other side, Su Lingzu looked at the direction where the golden airship had disappeared with a soft light in her beautiful eyes. The genius of martial arts, Zhui Yuehan, narrowed his eyes and seemed to be filled with coldness. Although they were both in the 7th rank of the profound sky realm, the appearance of Chu Hen today had made him feel a great sense of crisis. "I haven't had time to say goodbye to brother Chu Hen." Zheng Shu stared blankly at the shadow that had already turned into a black dot, and sighed with some regret. Fortunately, they had left unscathed, although the outcome greatly exceeded everyone's expectations. This Heavenly Talisman battle was not in vain. The Heavenly Talisman battle had come to an end. In this strange atmosphere, many unrelated people consciously retreated from this place. The people of the eastern continent, Giant Crocodile Bay, Zhongyuan Castle, and other places, as well as the Runemaster teams, left one after another. The four patriarchs looked at each other, then looked at City Lord Qi Ming's corpse, and left one after another with ulterior motives. The others in the City Lord's manor were both furious and helpless. With Qi Ming's death, Whale Island City was bound to be in chaos. The four great clans would definitely fight for the position of power. The City Lord's manor, which should have been prosperous for thousands of years, ended up losing everything because of a single wrong move. No one knew what would happen to Whale Island City in the future. The azure sea seemed to have merged with the sky. The golden airship soared through the sky like a ferocious beast. This golden airship is not bad. It feels more stable than the ones I've ridden before. The interior of the golden airship was luxuriously decorated like a small palace. Mu Feng, Haozi, Han Ichuan, and the rest looked left and right, full of interest. The appearance of this flowing cloud golden boat was almost the same as the one he had taken before. It was completely enclosed, and there were passages on both sides of the cabin that led to the outside. There were windows made of transparent glass inside, through which one could see the scenery outside. It wasn't hard to guess that Qi Ming had spent a lot of effort to obtain this golden airship. But in the end, because of the narrow-mindedness of the father and son, they had given it to someone else for nothing. This should be the talisman array that controls the golden airship's movements. Their gazes fell on a tall platform at the front of the ship. The platform was separated from the inner cabin by a jade railing. A brilliant talisman array flickered on the platform, and a crystal pillar over 2 meters long was erected at the important junctions of the talisman array. At a glance, there were a total of 12 crystal pillars. It's a primal crystal pillar. Han Ichuan's eyes lit up. Each of these primal crystal pillars requires billions of high-grade primal crystals to forge. That's right. Haozi nodded, showing his affirmation. The power of the primal crystals is not enough to keep up with the consumption of the talisman array to operate such a large device like the golden airship. Only the primal crystal pillar can support it. Every once in a while, they should have to replace the crystal pillars with a new one. It's simply burning money. They couldn't help but shake their heads. Although the golden airship was good, it consumed too much energy. If it wasn't to deal with the temperamental convective storms in the sea, it wouldn't have been used at all. Now it seemed that it was normal that the boarding passes they had bought before could reach the price of tens of billions. After all, the large golden airship was hundreds of times larger than this one. The energy consumption of the two was insignificant. You guys don't touch the talisman array on it. I don't want to fall from it. Shifengzi, who was leaning on the seat of the inner cabin, reminded them lazily. Hee. Mu Feng smiled slyly. Senior Shi, can you teach me how to control the golden airship? I'll bring you guys to a higher altitude. Shifengzi didn't even look at Mu Feng. He lazily closed his eyes and rested. This golden airship is quite big. There are dozens of rooms. Qiao Shaowan and Yi Yao walked out from another passage. The novelty of the golden airship raised everyone's interest. They soon forgot about the unpleasantness that had happened on Jade Spiral Island. However, they soon discovered a problem. Where's Chu Hen? Isn't he with you? Haozi asked. I don't know. I didn't see him when we came up. He must be feeling guilty about killing 2 more people. Qiao Shaowan said casually. He killed a city lord in one go. This time, Whale Island City is definitely finished. However, his personality is becoming more and more to my liking. It's just that he's a little procrastinating. If only he could kill his way out of Whale Island City earlier. What a waste of time to participate in the Heavenly Talisman battle. Get lost, you naughty girl. Wait until you're fully developed before thinking about men. If you don't participate in the Heavenly Talisman battle, you have a private golden airship to ride. Mu Feng scolded. TSK. You're the one who hasn't fully developed. Qiao Shaowan curled her lips in disdain. At the end of the golden airship, at the end of the long walkway, there was a tall overpass. The window on the overpass was opened. Chu Hen sat quietly by the window, gazing at the boundless sea below. You're here? Everyone's looking for you. A gentle voice came from behind. Long Xuanxuang walked to his side with light step. Looking at the handsome and resolute side profile, Long Xuanxuang opened her red lips and asked again, What's wrong? Are you still thinking about what happened just now? It's not your fault. No. Chu Hen shook his head, a cold glint flickering in his eyes. Chapter 1038. They. Who are you referring to? Long Xuanxuang's phoenix eyes narrowed slightly as she stared solemnly at Chu Hen's handsome side profile. Before Chu Hen killed Qi Ming, the latter had said some thought-provoking words. You people have to hurry up and run, they will be here soon. At that time, everyone was still in a state of shock from Chu Hen's powerful methods and hadn't had the time to think about it. Now that they had calmed down and thought about it, it seemed that things weren't that simple at all. However, in response to Long Xuanxuang's question, Chu Hen shook his head in confusion. I don't know either, don't know? Long Xuanxuang was slightly taken aback. She stared at Chu Hen's eyes for a while, and couldn't help pondering over it. Could it be the city lord's backer? In Long Xuanxuang's opinion, for Qi Ming to be able to rule Whale Island City for such a long time, apart from his own strength, he most likely had a huge tree behind him. If Chu Hen gave the order to kill him, it would definitely cause the people behind him to send people to kill him. Chu Hen shook his head again. Then, he let out a long sigh and smiled. No need to guess too much. Thinking too much is just asking for trouble. Since they had already left Whale Island City, they might as well put an end to everything that had happened over the past few days. Their top priority now was to rush to the immortal devil tomb as soon as possible and find Luo Mengchang. The two of them immediately returned to the inner cabin. Seeing the two of them return, the others all cast inquiring gazes at them. "Where did you go?" "Disappearing right from the start." Mu Feng asked. "Big brother Chu Hen, are you alright?" Yi Yao held the Yinyang beast Noni in one arm and held Chu Hen's arm in the other. Her pretty face was full of concern. Chu Hen smiled warmly. "I'm fine." He then glanced at Shifengzi, Han Ichuan, Haozi, and Xiao Shaowan. "I have something to say." Everyone was taken aback. Shifengzi, who was sitting on the chair with his eyes closed, also slowly opened his eyes. Chu Hen's expression was slightly solemn as he said, "If we encounter some unexpected situations along the way, the first thing we need to do is to ensure our own safety. If the team is separated and we can't find the others in a short period of time, then we'll head directly to the Immortal and Devil Tomb and wait for the others." Hearing Chu Hen's solemn tone, they couldn't help but feel bewildered. "What happened?" Haozi asked. "No, it's just a precaution, so I told you in advance." The others nodded to show that they understood. "What if the Tomb of Immortals and Demons doesn't converge?" Han Ichuan asked. "Then we'll go to the Deep Star State." Chu Hen answered without hesitation. Desolate Sword, Ancient Land, Tomb of Immortals and Devils, Deep Star State. These were the three places where Luo Mengchang was most likely to appear. Gu Yu went to the Desolate Sword, Ancient Land alone. Chu Hen led the team to the Tomb of Immortals and Devils. Regardless of who found Luo Mengchang first, or if they couldn't find her, they would eventually meet up in the Deep Star State. The specific rendezvous point was marked on the map left behind by Gu Yu. Oh right, what did that old fellow Qi Ming mean by those words before he died? Mu Feng asked the same question as Long Xuanxuang. What else could it mean? He was just trying to scare us. Xiao Shaowan replied casually. The others were instantly speechless. How could the dignified ruler of Whale Island City play this kind of child's game? Chu Hen smiled slightly. Perhaps he was just trying to scare us. Let's not take this matter to heart. Senior West Wind and I will take turns to guard the control array of the Golden Boat. The rest of you can go and rest. But seeing that Chu Hen was rather relaxed, the others no longer had any suspicions. The azure sky was clear and boundless. The waves of the blue sea were calm. The flowing cloud golden boat was like a ferocious beast traversing through the void. In the blink of an eye, several days passed. Just like the calm sea, everything was peaceful. The peaceful environment gradually calmed everyone's hearts. "Xiao Wan, how old are you?" "I feel like I'm much older than you." In a chic and elegant room, two pairs of fair legs were leaning against the wall. Yi Yao and Xiao Shaowan were lying side by side at the head of the bed. The yin-yang beast that was as docile as a cat was curled up into a ball of fur not far away. Its eyes were half closed, as if it was napping. The time on the flowing cloud golden boat was relatively monotonous and boring. Especially for the two young girls, Yi Yao and Xiao Shaowan. During this period of time, the two of them had become good friends who could talk about anything. Even when they slept at night, they would squeeze into one bed. "How old are you?" Xiao Shaowan opened her big bright eyes and then raised her fingers. "I don't know the specifics, but it should be between 20 to 30. 20 to 30? This answer obviously made Yi Yao stunned for a moment. How is that possible? Even if I say you're 15 years old, it's still too much. I'm really not lying to you. I just grow up slowly. When old Xiao said that he picked me up, I was only this old. Qiao Shaowan gestured with her hand. Looking at the length of 2 to 3 inches, Yi Yao was even more speechless. Is that a human? I don't know. Anyway, that's what old Xiao said. In any case, Qiao Shaowan had a look of I'm naive, I'm innocent, I don't know how to lie. Yi Yao couldn't do anything about her, so she simply stopped asking. I don't know why, but I like the aura of your big brother Chuhan more and more. Qiao Shaowan casually said. Aura? What aura? Cold, murderous. What nonsense are you talking about? Yi Yao frowned and immediately sat up. She looked at the other party with a little anger. How can Big Brother Chu Hen be like what you said? Then what do you think? Qiao Shaowan asked. Yi Yao thought for a moment, then her slightly furrowed brows relaxed, and a slight smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Big Brother Chu Hen's aura is warm, and it feels very comfortable to stay by his side. Love-struck fool. Before the other party could finish, Qiao Shaowan interrupted and continued. Actually, from the first time I saw him, his aura was a little cold. Later on, during the Battle of Black Kshetra Sky Region and the Battle of Thunder St. Palace, his murderous aura reached an extremely terrifying level. A few days ago, when he killed Qi Ming and his son, it was the same. Fortunately, those people in Whale Island City were smart and didn't continue to provoke him. Otherwise, the entire Whale Island City would definitely be filled with rivers of blood. As for the battle between Black Kshetra Sky Region and Thunder St. Palace, Yi Yao had witnessed it with her own eyes. As for Qiao Shaowan's words, Yi Yao couldn't deny it. She lightly bit her cherry lips, not knowing how to answer. Qiao Shaowan glanced at the other party. But you don't have to worry too much. His self-control is much stronger than we imagined. It's not to the point where he can't control himself. Upon hearing Qiao Shaowan's words, Yi Yao suddenly stared at the other party. Did sect leader Qiao Yong and Hall Master Xing Yi send you and Han Ichuan to spy on Big Brother Chu Hen? Qiao Shaowan was stunned for a moment. So you're not stupid? Yi Yao rolled her eyes at the other party. It wasn't that she wasn't smart, she was just naive. However, after experiencing so many hardships, she was gradually coming to understand the cruelty of this world. Indeed, there's such a reason. After all, your big brother Chu Hen is an extremely dangerous person. However, that's not my main objective. Yi Yao was slightly surprised. Qiao Shaowan's eyes were filled with confusion as she muttered, I left the eastern continent because I have my own matters to attend to. A hazy veil seemed to float in the air. Rumble. Right at this moment, a thunderous roar resounded through the thick walls of the flowing cloud golden boat. The sudden thunderclap directly interrupted Yi Yao's train of thought. She subconsciously looked at the window. Through the transparent window made of a special material, she saw that the sky outside had gradually darkened. A few bean-sized water droplets smashed against the window, leaving a trail of water behind. The storm is coming, Yi Yao said in a low voice. Yes. Qiao Shaowan turned around and grabbed a blanket to cover her head. This kind of weather is the best for sleeping. Feeling a little amused, Yi Yao shook her head. Then, she got off the bed and walked to the window to take a look. In the sky above the area in front of the outside world, the sky was dark and the clouds were swirling in the wind. An incomparably huge storm hovered above the sea like a punishment from the heavens. Bolts of incomparably strong lightning intertwined like dragons and pythons, letting out bursts of roars. Buzz, buzz! The flowing cloud golden boat swayed slightly as it faced the storm. It was like a wild, ancient beast that had bumped into the endless storm. In an instant, the entire body of the flowing cloud golden boat blossomed with a series of dazzling light patterns. Chapter 1039. Rumble, the sea churned, and huge waves rose to the sky. The endless storm seemed to tear the world apart. The flowing cloud golden boat that Chu Hen and the others were driving was like a meteorite shuttling through the vast nebula vortex. The destructive storm continued to launch all kinds of fierce attacks, but the flowing cloud golden boat was still unhindered. This storm has been going on for 6 days, and it doesn't look like it's going to stop. In the inner cabin that controlled the direction of the golden boat, Chu Hen stood by the window. Outside the thick glass, it was dark. The lightning flashing in the clouds was like a silver dragon riding on the clouds. The wind was strong, and the rain was like pearls, showing the power of nature. At this moment, a series of light footsteps could be heard approaching from the corridor. Chu Hen turned around and saw Shifeng on time. Because the flowing cloud golden boat needed the power of the talisman array to be activated. For safety reasons, this place had to be guarded. In the team, only Chu Hen and Shifeng could understand the talisman array. Therefore, for the past few days, the two had taken turns to guard here. Senior. Chu Hen nodded politely. Shifeng nodded slightly and looked out of the window. I'm afraid the storm won't stop so soon. It should be. Is there something on your mind? Shifeng asked. Chu Hen shook his head and smiled. Nothing. It's just that after so many days, I wonder how Mingxiang is doing. Heaven helps the worthy. You are already on your way, and we will meet again. We will meet again. Chu Hen's mind moved slightly, and he couldn't help but think of the moment when Luo Mingxiang fell into the devouring space cave in the Xiankshetra sky region. Soft, ethereal like a spirit butterfly in the wind, it was heartbreaking. Flowers will bloom again, and people will meet again. Don't forget me. These were Luo Mingxiang's last words. In Chu Hen's memory, there were 2 scenes that were imprinted in his mind. One was when Luo Mingxiang fell into the devouring cave in order to save him. Another was the scene where Long Zhan sacrificed himself for him in the imperial city of the Sacred Star Dynasty. It was still vivid in his mind. Whenever he thought of these 2 things, Chu Hen's heart would involuntarily become restless. I hope there won't be too many obstacles in the future, Chu Hen muttered in a low voice. Hee. Shifeng smiled. Whale Island City's matter has blown up so much that the victorious East Province will probably sigh and shake their heads again. Chu Hen also felt helpless. If it weren't for Qi Juexin's overbearing attitude, he wouldn't have gone to such extremes. Fortunately, Whale Island City was quite a distance away from the greater East Province. What was done here wouldn't have too much of an impact on the greater East Province. Senior, I'll leave this place to you. I'll come back later, Chu Hen said. Go! And Chu Hen nodded and immediately turned to leave. As he watched the young figure walk into the corridor, Shifeng couldn't hide the admiration in his eyes, but there was also a faint hint of contemplation. Even though he had lived for most of his life and seen all sorts of storms in the world, yet Shifeng couldn't see through this young junior in front of him at all. The other party had too many secrets that no one knew about. Suddenly, Chu Hen stopped in his tracks. At the same time, a dense chill surged out of his body. Shifeng was startled at first. Then, his eyes also turned cold and his expression changed greatly. Hurry! Before he could finish his sentence, an incomparably intense and heavy explosion resounded. Ice-cold air and rain, as well as all sorts of explosive fragments, exploded. Without giving Chu Hen any time to react, a sharp and thick wall suddenly appeared in front of Chu Hen's cabin walkway. The flowing cloud golden boat shook violently. Before Chu Hen and Shifeng realized what had happened, the entire cabin was directly split in 2. Boom! Boom! The 100-meter-long flowing cloud golden boat was instantly split in 2. The thunderous storm poured down overwhelmingly. Bang! The talisman formation that controlled the movement of the flowing cloud golden boat was directly destroyed. The incomparably chaotic talisman power leaked out wantonly, and the bursting talisman formation's secret book exploded like interweaving thunder and lightning. Under the combined impact of the 2 forces, the originally indestructible flowing cloud golden boat was suddenly like a withered boat, and was violently destroyed. The cabin exploded and the room collapsed. What's happening? Brother Chu-hen, where are you? What the hell is going on? Amid the panicked and confused shouts, Chu-hen, Yi-Yao, Long Xuan-Xuang, and all the others were all exposed to the infinite storm. The broken flowing cloud golden boat was shredded into countless pieces by the storm. The gale roared, and everyone tried their best to stabilize their bodies. The torrential rain hit their bodies like stone bullet. The piercingly cold air swirled at a high speed, like wind blades and rain knives. The sky was dark, and the earth was dark. Dark clouds were rolling in the sky, and huge waves were surging down below. As Chu-hen stabilized his body, he raised his cold eyes, and saw that in the sky, there was an even larger flowing cloud golden boat. This flowing cloud golden boat was 1,000 meters long. It was like a giant beast in the darkness. Moreover, this giant boat was not completely sealed, and unexpectedly, the deck was open. And on the deck, there were dozens of ghost-like black shadows, emitting a cold aura. Their cold eyes were filled with bone-piercing coldness. Who were these people? Chu-hen frowned, and his eyes were filled with coldness. They were the ones who had destroyed the flowing cloud golden boat. F***ck, this hurricane is too big. Mu Feng had already lost his balance, and was being swept around by the storm. Brother Chu-hen, Noni has been swept away, hurry up and save him. Yi-Yao shouted. Chu-hen was startled, and looked sideways, only to see the yin-yang beast Noni had been directly swept into a whirlpool caused by the hurricane. The gloomy waves were like the giant hand of a roaring monster, and seemed to want to drag everyone into an abyss of eternal damnation. Senior Shifeng, Chu-hen shouted in a stern voice. I know. Shifeng Zi immediately responded. As soon as his voice fell, a dazzling crystal tree shadow bloomed behind Shifeng Zi, emitting a luxurious light. The gorgeous light pattern was like a round star, illuminating the heaven and earth. Buzz, then, a bubble-like light sphere condensed around Shifeng Zi's body. The bubble-light sphere rapidly grew, and turned into a round shield with a diameter of 7 or 8 meters. Everyone come to me! Shifeng Zi shouted. At the same time, Chu-hen's figure moved, like a lightning streaking across the sky, and instantly plunged into the earth-shaking hurricane. Wu yin-yang beast Noni let out a low whimper, its fur was drenched, and it looked particularly miserable. Chu-hen did not say much, picked up Noni with one hand, and quickly turned around to retreat from the center of the hurricane. The earth-shattering wind blades rushed over like a swarm of locusts. Chu-hen's body was immediately filled with many shallow wounds. Chu-hen paid no attention to this, and stepped on the waves, moving towards Shifeng Zi's position. Everyone swept towards Shifeng Zi at the fastest speed, and entered the runic shield he had created. Brother Chu-hen, whoosh! As if passing through a thin layer of water, Chu-hen, carrying yin-yang beast Noni, finally entered the protective shield. Are you all right? Chu-hen asked, while handing Noni to Yi-Yao. Everyone looked solemn, shaking their heads, and looked up at the mysterious giant ship sailing in the sky. Above the dim sky, thunder and lightning crisscrossed. The giant ship exuding a gloomy aura was like a fierce beast eyeing its prey. Those cold figures standing on the deck made people feel extremely uneasy. Chapter 1040. Rumble, endless convection storms invaded the world, as if they wanted to tear the sky above the sea into pieces. The biting cold wind blades and the powerful rain of bullets continuously struck the rune shield that Shifeng Zi had condensed. Crackling sounds were dense and violent. The flowing cloud golden boat was completely destroyed by the invaders without the slightest bit of defense. The current situation could be said to be extremely anxious. Who are these people? Han Ichuan's gaze was gloomy, his expression incomparably solemn. The eyes of the others were also filled with solemnity. The flowing cloud golden boat, which was more than a kilometer wide, was emitting a chilling aura that made people's hearts palpitate. It was like a terrifying beast looking down on everyone, eyeing them covetously. A mountain-like pressure shrouded him. Together with the earth-shattering death storm, it simultaneously crushed everyone's mind. I don't know. Chu Hen frowned and said coldly. Those who came did not have good intentions, and those who had good intentions did not come. The other party's straightforward attack had already indicated that they were enemies and not friends. The most important thing now is to leave this storm area as soon as possible, Haozi said in a low voice. I don't need you to remind me. Shifeng Zi's expression was solemn. He unceasingly released vigorous Reiki energy, and circles of gorgeous light ripples spread out in all directions like water waves. The light shield that was protecting everyone was like a meteorite shuttling through the atmosphere, charging forward against the death storm that was roaring angrily. The biting cold wind blades and the rapid rainstorm were like thousands of sword rain. Every time it suffered a round of attack, a circle of slight dents would appear on the light shield. Shifeng Zi's brows were tightly knitted, his expression incomparably solemn. The Reiki energy in his Naiwan palace was being consumed at an extremely fast speed. Even with the protection of the immortal talisman spiritual tree, he was afraid that he would not be able to persist for a long time. Apart from this endless death storm, the greatest threat at the moment was the flowing cloud golden boat in the sky, which was emitting a huge pressure. They are following us, Mu Feng said in a deep voice. It seemed that the mysterious people on the flowing cloud golden boat were not in a hurry to attack. They just followed the crowd unhurriedly like this. These bastards are trying to exhaust our stamina. Han Yichuan cursed again. It was obvious that Chu Hen's party would fall into the death storm sooner or later due to Shifeng Zi's Reiki energy being exhausted. Under the assault of the convection storm, everyone's stamina was rapidly depleting. At that time, the enemy would be able to easily take them down without wasting a single soldier. This was no different from a cat playing with Haozi. While he was filled with resentment, there was nothing he could do. Let's fight it out with them. Mu Feng couldn't hold back his impatience any longer. That's courting death. Qiao Shaowan immediately dampened his enthusiasm. Those people's auras aren't any weaker than ours. If you want to fight, you can do it yourself. I don't want to die with you. Are we going to continue wasting time like this? We'll be buried in the convection storm before they have a chance to attack. Stop quarreling. What's the point of being unreasonable at a time like this? Long Xuanxuang frowned slightly. At this moment, Chu Hen suddenly said, Do you still remember what I told you before? Everyone could not help but be startled. They looked at each other in surprise. Brother Chu Hen, you? Chu Hen's gaze turned cold. His handsome face revealed a trace of determination. These people are most likely here for me. Upon hearing this, everyone instantly understood Chu Hen's intention. No! Yi Yao immediately objected. If we leave, we'll leave together. We won't leave you behind, Brother Chu Hen. What nonsense are you talking about? I'm not going to die. Chu Hen replied calmly. Long Xuanxuang raised her eyes slightly and opened her red lips slightly. I'll stay and help you. No need. Chu Hen rejected without hesitation. He solemnly said to the crowd, It'll be easier for me to escape on my own. Long Xuanxuang wanted to insist, but when she saw Chu Hen's determined gaze, she did not say anything else. She gently bit her red lips and nodded. Be careful. Don't worry. Chu Hen scanned the crowd and said to Shifeng Zi, Senior, I'll have to trouble you from now on. Go ahead. Shifeng Zi said in a low voice. Chu Hen nodded. Then, his figure moved as if he had passed through a layer of water and shot out of the light barrier like an arrow. Ignoring the shouts of Yi Yao and the rest, Chu Hen flew in another direction. Just as Chu Hen had expected, the mysterious person had indeed come for him. The giant boat obviously paused in the void for a moment, then changed direction and chased after Chu Hen. However, they had no intention of letting Shifeng Zi and the others go. As they changed the direction of their pursuit, nearly 10 black figures with extraordinary auras directly flew down from the huge ship and charged towards Shifeng Zi and his party. Humph! Shifeng snorted coldly. His eyes glowed with a dazzling light, and the virtual shadow of the spirit tree behind him once again shone brightly. In an instant, the speed of the light barrier increased by several times. Like a giant egg streaking across the void, it was incomparably swift and fierce, radiating light in all directions. Looking at the giant egg that disappeared in the storm and the pursuers that followed closely behind, Chu Hen's eyes surged with a trace of coldness. "I'll leave it to you, Senior Shifeng." Then, he raised his head to look at the giant boat that was almost above his head. Chu Hen narrowed his eyes and swept forward against the storm. Rumble! Clang! The raging waves did not stop, and the tornadoes and whirlpools did not stop. A series of huge whirlpools soared into the sky, stirring up the heaven and earth, like a series of raging flood dragons that traversed the vast sea. The overwhelming hailstorm was mixed with the wind blades, exuding an aura of destruction that could crush everything. One after another, tiny bloody marks appeared on Chu Hen's body, and a lot of the clothes on his arms were torn. In this regard, Chu Hen turned a blind eye to it. Stunning lightning streaked across the sky one after another, and his swift and fierce figure shuttled back and forth among the tornadoes. The giant boat in the sky chased after him closely. It kept a distance of no more than 5 miles. The gigantic ship was like a meteorite crashing into the raging storm. It shook the surroundings, and its momentum shook the entire universe. Chu Hen also understood that it was impossible to escape in a straight line. Immediately, after passing through 2 storms, Chu Hen once again changed the direction of his movement, and swept diagonally to the other side. Rumble! The giant boat, which had also changed its direction, collided with the storm whirlpool, and let out a deafening collision sound. Chu Hen was secretly surprised. Based on his simple understanding of the golden boat, he knew that every time the golden boat changed its direction, it would need to change the movement trajectory of the controlling glyph. During this period, there would be a short pause. If these short intervals could be superimposed, then it would be quite a lot of time. However, Chu Hen also had to face this constantly superimposed tropospheric storm layer. Even an expert of the ancient eternity realm would not be able to sustain it for a long time. Fortunately, because of the chaotic body, the strength of Chu Hen's physical body was far stronger than that of ordinary people, and he could still persist for now. Chi. The silver lightning that streaked across the sky resonated with the tribulation lightning in the sky. Chu Hen was as swift as lightning, and as sharp as a ray of light. He shuttled back and forth among the storm and the tsunami without any pattern. Relying on his incomparably agile and reckless movements, the golden boat was getting further and further away from Chu Hen while constantly changing directions. It was indeed effective. Chu Hen was secretly delighted. As long as he changed directions 10 more times, he would be able to shake them off completely. However, the newcomers were not fools. Chu Hen's intentions were soon discovered. Buzz buzz. After completing another change in direction, the giant boat of flowing clouds' speed increased explosively, and it charged toward him like a huge beast. Dazzling lightning illuminated the world, and a huge black shadow gradually enveloped the sky above Chu Hen. Then, the dozen or so figures lined up on the deck pounced down like ghosts. The dazzling lightning shone on the cold spears in their hands. They were clad in battle armor, and their auras were astonishing. The powerful auras revealed by their indifferent eyes were enough to make one shudder. When Chu Hen came into contact with one of the pairs of eyes, his heart suddenly trembled. This aura was very familiar. Before Chu Hen could react, a piercing sneer and a powerful aura poured down. "We meet again, the little mouse outside Kongyu City." A familiar voice. A familiar aura. Chu Hen's pupils contracted tightly. It really was them. Outside Kongyu City. Chapter 1041. We meet again, the little mouse outside Kongyu City. Boom! A thunderous storm shook the heavens. The lightning that shone in the sky shone on the powerful figures that exuded a chilling aura. A chilling spear. It was a majestic golden holy armor. They were like heavenly soldiers that made people feel great pressure. As for Kongyu City, those 3 words caused Chu Hen's heart to tremble. Kongyu City. Before the opening of the ancient desolation heaven domain, Chu Hen had killed the entire 7-soul palace in a fit of rage. He used the power of the myriad beast diagram to summon beasts and slaughtered almost everyone in the 7-soul palace. After leaving, Chu Hen encountered the demon Tuoba Sha outside of Kongyu City. Moreover, he had personally witnessed Tuoba Sha being besieged by 3 mysterious people. Before Tuoba Sha was captured, he gave a mysterious iron box to Chu Hen. He repeatedly told Chu Hen to destroy the item in the iron box. However, things did not go according to his wishes. After the opening of the ancient desolation heaven domain, Chu Hen was chased by the genius of the Thunder Saint Palace, Lei Jixin. After being trapped in the land of the buried dragon, he still opened the mysterious iron box that Tuoba Sha gave him and caused a series of massacres. It's you. Looking at the cold and arrogant face that gradually appeared in the darkness, Chu Hen's eyes faintly trembled. It was difficult for Chu Hen to forget the person's aura. This was the first time Chu Hen felt the threat of death that he could not resist. After taking Tuoba Sha away, the person in the lead immediately chased after Chu Hen. At that time, Chu Hen did not even have the slightest thought of resisting. Apart from escaping, he did not have any other thoughts. If it wasn't for the life-saving jade pendant that Guyu left behind, Chu Hen would have been destroyed to the point that not even scraps remained. It was because of that encounter that it left a deep impression on Chu Hen. He originally thought that this matter would not find him so soon, but he did not expect that it could not be avoided. "Hey, you really made me look for you." An ice-cold aura surged down. The man was clad in golden armor and looked down at Chu Hen from above. His attitude was exactly the same as that time outside Kongyu City. However, unlike before, when Chu Hen was like an ant before him, Chu Hen didn't have the slightest hint of fear on his face. "Where is Senior Tuoba?" Chu Hen asked sternly, one word at a time. "Oh." The man raised his eyebrows and stroked his chin with one hand. "Let me think. That trash should still be alive. I just don't know if his limbs are still intact. Why don't you come back with me to take a look so that the 2 of you can reunite?" Chu Hen clenched his fists tightly, and a chill surged in his eyes. Even though he had only met Tuoba Sha a few times, Tuoba Sha had helped him before. The actions of these people had quietly enraged him. "In order to find you, I spent a lot of effort. That trash was also stubborn and refused to tell me your background. What a pity. You still can't escape from me, Song Li." The man smiled and teased. "Are you going to come with us obediently, or do you want us to do it ourselves?" Chu Hen chuckled. "What do you think?" Whoosh! Before he finished speaking, a piercingly cold, murderous aura erupted. Song Li's eyes were filled with coldness. He raised his hand slightly and said, "Cut off his limbs first." "Yes." Then, more than 10 menacing guards swept up their powerful auras and charged toward Chu Hen. The aura released by each of them was no weaker than the 5th level of the Sky Profound Realm. There was no one in the Eastern Victory State who could casually send out such a powerful lineup. Humph! The corner of Chu Hen's mouth twitched, but he wasn't afraid at all. His figure moved and he directly faced them head-on. Accompanied by a passionate sword cry, Chu Hen summoned the blue sky sword. A majestic sword aura stacked up like a storm, flying celestial sword. Whoosh! In an instant, several human-shaped sword shadows pierced through the wind and directly attacked the powerhouse who was charging at the front. The sharp human-shaped sword aura instantly penetrated the opponent's body. The latter's expression changed drastically. He didn't even have time to scream before he was instantly torn into pieces. His limbs were separated from his torso. Song Li's eyes turned cold as he shouted coldly, "Flying celestial sword." Immediately, the other powerhouses lined up and launched their attacks. The cold spears in their hands emitted a dazzling light. However, Chu Hen's speed became even faster. In the instant that he was surrounded, a wave of boundless berserk energy suddenly exploded out. Thousand thunder escape, clang. The sound of thunder and lightning intertwining was ear-piercing. The light that flashed between heaven and earth was like the blooming of a bright moon. In an instant, peerless thunder and lightning pillars suddenly appeared out of nowhere. The thunder pillars were everywhere, slanting across the sky. For example, the sharp silver stake that pierced through the atmosphere. A series of screams were heard as the wanton flowing thunder pillars directly penetrated the powerhouse's chests and bodies. The thunder and lightning pillars that filled the sky were like divine spears and giant nails that appeared out of nowhere. It was impossible to guard against them. The powerhouses who were seriously injured struggled as they were sucked into the storm vortex. B*****. Song Li's expression changed, and his killing intent rose. I underestimated your strength. Whoosh! With a raise of one hand, a long spear appeared in Song Li's hand. He bent down and rushed down. A dazzling light bloomed, and beautiful flowing light patterns surrounded the long spear. It immediately transformed into an extremely solid golden dragon. Roar! The golden dragon that surrounded the spear flowed down, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, emitting a monstrous aura. The corner of Chu Hen's eyes turned cold. He raised one hand, and extremely violent thunder and lightning gathered between his palm and arm. Crack! In an instant, a solid pillar of lightning shot forward like an aurora. Boom! As soon as the two collided, a rain of sparks splashed and light waves exploded. Circles of vast and thick light patterns swept in all directions, merging with the storm and setting off huge waves that were thousands of feet high. Swish! Following that, a beam of sword-like silver thunder light pierced through the sky, penetrating the layers of chaotic air waves and chasing after Song Li. Song Li was shocked. In a hurry, he used his long spear to block in front of him. Bang! With a loud bang, the sky was filled with a rain of light. Song Li felt his arm go numb. As he retreated, the weapon in his hand almost flew out. Heh! Chu Hen sneered disdainfully and said, "You haven't even reached the ancient eternal realm. What right do you have to be arrogant in front of me?" You? Song Li was shocked and angry. Indeed, he had not reached the ancient eternal realm, but he was only one step away. Even so, with a powerful background, how could the skills he mastered be weaker than ordinary ancient eternal realm powerhouses? Now that he was being ridiculed by Chu Hen, how could he not be angry? It's not a good thing to be happy too early. Song Li's eyes suddenly shot out two beams of cold light. He put his hands together and formed a seal. Rumble! In an instant, the entire space of heaven and earth fell into a state of intense distortion. The dim sky became bright in an instant. A huge golden light screen enveloped the void. Following that, countless golden beams of light burst out from the vast light screen. Each beam of light was as sharp as the sharp spear and sword shadows, emitting a terrifying penetrative power. Ming Luo's massacre. Ming Luo's massacre. Chu Hen's pupils shrank. This move again. It was this move that forced him to use the life-saving jade pendant left behind by Gu Yu to escape. Buzz! Buzz! Even the heavens and earth were trembling. Tens of thousands of light pillars poured down, enveloping Chu Hen below. The magnificent scene was like a few suns shining brightly at the same time. Rumble! The torrential rain of wind blades that filled the sky was shredded into nothingness. The rising waves were like the clouds in the sky that were pierced by the holy morning light. The piercing light reached hundreds of meters deep into the sea. The fishes and prawns at the bottom of the sea disappeared without a trace in an instant. Boom! The sea swayed and the water split open. The entire area was immediately turned into a land of death. A sinister smile appeared on Song Li's face. However, his smile suddenly froze and was replaced with deep disbelief and shock. Under the gradually dissipating light, Chu Hen, who should have been pierced into a sieve, actually stayed where he was, safe and sound. What? Not only Song Li, but the other powerhouses were also shocked. Everyone knew how powerful Song Li's move was. Even an ancient realm powerhouse could not come out unscathed. However, the aura that Chu Hen emitted was as stable as before. Compared to before, Chu Hen's body now had an additional piece of sacred armor that was surrounded by purple light. It was overflowing with color and had an imposing appearance. Whoosh! In the next moment, a pair of dazzling light wings spread out from behind the sacred armor. The dim world suddenly became extremely bright. Whoosh! In an instant, a series of afterimages were left in the air. Chu Hen suddenly disappeared from where he was and appeared in front of Song Li in an instant. Chapter 1042. What a pity! We've just met, but we have to say goodbye again. A series of afterimages streaked across the sky like spirits. The gorgeous wings of light instantly brightened the dusky sky. Song Li's expression suddenly changed. An extremely clear and dangerous aura directly assaulted him. In an instant, a pair of eyes flashing with a demonic purple light quietly entered his eyes. You! Song Li's heart suddenly trembled. At this moment, he suddenly came to his senses. The Chu Hen before him was no longer the little rat that he had chased in all directions. Have a safe journey. I won't send you off, Chi. Chi. The blue sky sword immediately flowed with resplendent and violent dark blue lightning. Chu Hen moved with the sword in his hand. The cold and sharp blade directly attacked Song Li's heart. Ha! Suddenly, at this moment, a soul-stirring roar resounded from the sky. This shout seemed to have a kind of magic that reached deep into the soul. Chu Hen's heart trembled slightly, and the blue sky sword's burst of sharpness immediately weakened a little. Rumble! Almost at the same time, the flowing cloud golden boat that was hovering in the void released a majestic and monstrous aura that was as majestic as a mountain. The sky suddenly lost its color along with the space that was trembling uneasily. Then, an incomparably solid golden palm descended from the sky. It was like a giant hand of a god as it reached down. An ancient eternity stage powerhouse. Chu Hen's expression changed. Buzz, buzz. The monstrous giant hand covered the sky and the earth as it pressed down. In an instant it was above Chu Hen and Song Li's heads. Then, the monstrous giant hand directly passed through Song Li's body like a phantom and forcefully pressed down on Chu Hen's body. Bang! An incomparably heavy force surged and exploded. Chaotic ripples swept in all directions. It was as if Chu Hen was hit by a mountain as a terrifying force surged down, his internal organs churned, and his blood and qi surged. Chu Hen spat out a mouthful of blood and rapidly fell down like a meteorite. Hua! The billowing waves were like the waters of the yellow springs, swallowing Chu Hen in an instant. The chaotic storm was like the roar of a ghost, the wind was piercingly cold, Chu Hen was as small as a small boat. He immediately disappeared without a trace. Song Li was so frightened that he broke out in a cold sweat. Just now, he almost lost his life under Chu Hen's sword. How long had it been? If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, Song Li wouldn't have believed that the powerless ant he had hunted back then would have grown to such an extent. He couldn't believe that the person who single-handedly destroyed the Thunder Saint Palace was the same person from back then. That thing is indeed unparalleled, Song Li secretly pondered, his eyes surging with a fiery luster. At this moment, a guard hurried over. Lord Song Li, that kid has disappeared. What? Song Li immediately came back to his senses, his cold eyes sweeping across the incomparably chaotic monstrous waves that were surging and whistling like a black sea. Coupled with the fact that the convection storm was getting more and more violent, Chu Hen's aura had already been hidden in the vast sea. Damn bastard! Song Li's expression turned slightly cold. He first looked at the flowing cloud golden ship in the sky with fear, then said, "That guy was hit by Lord Qing Xiong's palm and is already seriously injured. He definitely can't run far. Split up and chase after him immediately. Yes. Immediately, Songli led a group of people and quickly rushed into the sea below to conduct a large-scale search. At the same time, two people's conversation could be faintly heard from within the flowing cloud golden ship. This kid has some skills. He actually took the opportunity to escape after being hit by Lord Qing Xiong's heavenly dipper palm, a gloomy voice said. Hee, if it was so easy, the higher-ups wouldn't have sent us here. A faint, gentle laughter gave off a calm and arrogant feeling. From this tone, it wasn't hard to tell that Chu Hen's escape didn't even cause the slightest fluctuation in his emotions. Rumble. The storm didn't seem to have any intention of stopping. Thunder rumbled incessantly, and the sea surged violently. It was just like after Whale Island City, everything didn't stop. Instead, it became even more intense. Whoosh! Cool splashes came one after another, tracing the waves in front of them and hitting the beach. The high cries of the seabirds reverberating in his ears became clear. The instant Chu Hen opened his eyes, the piercing sunlight made him subconsciously cover his eyes with his hands. The movement of raising his hand immediately affected his internal injuries, and he felt an intense pain in his chest. Hiss! Chu Hen couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. His pale face was slightly distorted. The memories from before he fainted flowed into his mind. Chu Hen scanned his surroundings vigilantly, but only heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that there was no one around. It seemed like they didn't chase after him. The convection storm finally stopped. Chu Hen heaved a sigh of relief. He had fallen into the sea after being struck by the powerful expert on the flowing cloud ship. Taking advantage of the chaos caused by the convection storm, Chu Hen dove in the water for more than 10 hours. In the end, he had no choice but to stop due to exhaustion. Chu Hen's movements were sluggish as he stood up. Surveying his surroundings, he was currently on a deserted island. Looking ahead, the size of the deserted island wasn't small. The continuous chain of islands extended all the way to the south, like a forest ridge in the ocean. Where am I? Chu Hen's eyes flickered with doubt. He raised his hand and a scroll appeared in his palm. He unfurled the scroll, and a detailed map gradually appeared. This was the map that Gu Yu had left for Chu Hen. It marked the routes of the desolate Sword Ancient Plains, the Immortal Devil Tomb, and the Sinking Star Province. Chu Hen found the position of Whale Island City first and headed south. If he wanted to go to the Immortal Devil Tomb, he would have to pass by Giant Crocodile Bay or Zhongyuan Castle. Judging from the time, he still had a long way to go before he reached his destination. Whale Island City, Giant Crocodile Bay, Zhongyuan Castle, and other parts of the sea had many unknown islands and deserted continents. After pondering for a short while, Chu Hen realized that he was currently on a nameless island. The sky was blue and the waves were boundless. Under the bright sun and gentle breeze, the peculiar plants on the island and the colorful scenery on the beach displayed the scenery of a foreign land. However, Chu Hen wasn't in the mood to appreciate the beautiful scenery. He dragged his exhausted body toward the forest on the island. The most important thing now was to adjust his condition. Those people wouldn't be so easy to shake off. There would probably be a fierce battle ahead. The crisis hadn't been resolved yet. Chapter 1043. Caw, in the deep and gloomy island jungle, a group of unknown birds flew away in fright. Chu Hen dragged his tired body into the forest and sat down in a bush. Borrowing the luxuriant flowers and plants, he hid himself within. Feeling the quietness of his surroundings, Chu Hen's vigilance was slightly lowered. He took out a healing elixir and swallowed it. A warm stream of air flowed through his body like spring water. Very quickly, Chu Hen felt his body become much more relaxed. I didn't expect to receive such an attack even with the punishment injury armor on. Looks like it's going to be troublesome. The corner of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed as he muttered softly. Although he was caught off guard, The punishment injury armor's defense was strong enough to withstand a heavy attack from experts like Lei Aoqiong and Qi Ming. However, the casual palm from the person on the flowing cloud golden boat had broken through the defense of the punishment injury armor. His strength was terrifying. Who were they exactly? Chu Hen couldn't help but recall the time he met Tuoba Sha outside of Kongyu City and the opening of the ancient Barren Heaven Realm. The opening of the ancient Barren Heaven Realm. Those people were known as the ancient Barren Heaven Realm managers, and the Heaven and Earth Black-Yellow Order was issued by them. They had a title that made the world revere them. Light Sacred Clan. Could the person who took Senior Tuoba Sha be from the Light Sacred Clan? Chu Hen fell into deep thought. There was an 80% chance that it was. Apart from that powerful clan, Chu Hen couldn't think of any other force that could send such a powerful lineup to chase after him. There was only one reason why they were chasing after him. That was the Sky Chi token. The Sky Chi token. Chu Hen's pupils shrank. At this point, it wasn't hard to connect what had happened before and after. It was because of the Sky Chi token that Tuoba Sha's family was killed, and he fell into the demonic Tao and embarked on the path of revenge. However, Tuoba Sha was stubborn and didn't touch the Sky Chi token. Finally, the Light Sacred Clan found Tuoba Sha again. At that time, he didn't even have the chance to resist. However, it was incomparably unexpected for Chu Hen to see it. In the nick of time, Tuoba Sha handed the box containing the Chi Tian token to Chu Hen and told him to destroy the items inside. Things turned out contrary to one's wishes. In the ancient desolate heaven region, Chu Hen was being chased by the experts of the Thunder Saint Palace and the Valley of Innocence. By a freak combination of factors, he had triggered the power of Qitian. Later on, he unleashed his ability to kill. Blood dyed millions of people, causing the mountains of the Victory East state to collapse and the tsunamis to erupt. It caused such a huge commotion in the Dongxing state. Naturally, it was discovered by the hidden ghost. Thinking of this, Chu Hen could not help but feel a chill down his spine. From the looks of it, he was already under surveillance when he was at Mount Kunliu. As soon as he left the eastern continent, the Light Sacred Tribe followed closely behind. What should we do next? Chu Hen's expression became more and more solemn. He knew nothing about the Radiance Sacred Tribe. All he knew was that they were a colossus that stood at the top of the eastern continent. It was like a huge star in the dark universe. It was impossible to even see its full appearance. Could it be that he had to hand over the Qitian token? Chu Hen shook his head. Putting aside the fact that the Qitian token had already fused with his body, it was another matter whether he could take it out. Even if he handed it over, would they let him go? The answer was absolutely not. After all, the Radiance Sacred Tribe did not want the matter of them chasing after the Qitian token to be leaked. Otherwise, they would have already made their move back at Mount Kunliu. It was precisely because they were worried that the matter of the Qitian token would be leaked that the Radiance Sacred Tribe waited until now to make their move. Similarly, once the Qitian token fell into their hands, then Tuoba Sha would be worthless, and the only thing waiting for him would be death. He could not hand over the Qitian token. A resolute light flashed in Chu Hen's eyes, and a sharp glint appeared between his brows. I don't care if you are the Radiance Sacred Tribe or not. It's not to the point where I have to surrender. Day and night alternated, and the sun and moon rotated. After resting for a day, Chu Hen headed toward the depths of the forest under the cover of the night. There were many islands here. The islands were connected, and they looked like giant turtle shells lying on the surface of the sea. The endless forest stretched toward the south. Chu Hen's goal was simple. He planned to cross these islands on foot first, and then find another way to leave. Rustle. In the darkness, snakes, insects, rats, and ants kept crawling on the ground, making rustling sounds on the dried branches and leaves. Suddenly, a series of hurried movements came from the other side of the forest, and there was a slight tremor. Chu Hen was slightly shocked, and he immediately stopped moving and held his breath. Swish, swish, swish. 5 or 6 sharp figures wearing flowing light sacred armor were hurriedly flashing through the forest. They searched around while discussing in a low voice. Could that thief be buried in the sea? We haven't found him for a day. Impossible. If he could die so easily, he wouldn't have sent Lord Qing Xiong and Lord Yin Quan, 2 ancient Eternal Realm experts, to take action. That's right, especially Lord Qing Xiong. He hasn't carried out a mission for more than 200 years. You can imagine how much the higher-ups value that thief Chu Hen. In the end, do you know why the higher-ups want to capture Chu Hen? This is not something we have the right to know. It's better for you to discuss it. However, those who offend the Light Saint clan have never had a good ending since ancient times. Hee, what a pity. He just made a name for himself, and now he's going to die. The arrogant and frivolous voice gradually faded away. Swish. A faint ripple appeared in the air, and Chu Hen appeared from the darkness. His deep eyes flashed with a firefly-like light. 2 ancient Eternal Realm experts. You really think highly of me, Chu Hen. Thinking about how the entire island was being searched, Lin Fan felt a chill down his spine. It would be difficult for him to move forward. Perhaps I should take the initiative. The corner of Chu Hen's mouth curled up into a crescent. Then, his figure flashed, and he flew out like a phantom. Whoosh whoosh. The night wind was bone-chilling. The armored guards did not seem to notice the danger that was rapidly approaching. They were like tigers and wolves pouncing on their prey. In an instant, an incomparably cold aura of death came from behind them. Who's there? The guards were shocked, and turned around at the same time. What answered them was a beam of dazzling sword light that was as fast as lightning. It was so beautiful that it looked like a meteor that streaked across the sky, illuminating the forest. Hiss, hiss, hiss. A series of blood rained down. The guards' eyes widened and their mouths gaped open. They immediately covered their necks with their hands, but it was too late. Warm blood spurted out from between their fingers. Bang, bang, bang. The guards fell to the ground one after another. After struggling for a while, they finally opened their eyes and allowed their vitality to drain away. Chapter 1044. Ah! Bastard, bastard, how dare you come to me? Bang! A violent force surged out, smashing through a large tree. Before one of the guards could finish his words, his chest immediately caved in. His sternum was broken, and his internal organs and blood spurted out of his mouth. He immediately died. Looking at the fallen companions, the last holy armor guard looked at the young figure walking toward him with a terrified expression. Chu Hen's eyes were filled with playfulness, but his expression was incomparably calm. His death-like footsteps were exceptionally cold, and every step he took brought about an unbearable great pressure. The guard staggered back. His eyes quickly scanned the surroundings, trying to find his companions nearby. However, in the silent surroundings, only his continuous panting could be heard. You're really courting death. The guard's eyes suddenly became fierce. He suddenly raised his arm and clenched his fist. A strange and obscure power was quietly released. However, at the same time, a bright lightning shadow tore through the air and attacked. Hiss! The guard's expression changed dramatically. Before he could react, he felt a sharp pain in his arm. Half of his arm was directly sent flying. Panic and helplessness instantly appeared on his miserable face. His last scream was stuck in his throat as the merciless lightning bolt pierced through his neck and the tree trunk behind him. His pupils, which were filled with fear, suddenly became dim. Hiss! With a thought, Chu Hen immediately withdrew the restless lightning into his palm. Bang! The guard's body collapsed to the ground like a pile of mud, and the air was filled with the smell of death. It's almost dawn. Chu Hen raised his head. Through the gaps between the treetops, he could vaguely see the dawn light piercing through the clouds in the sky. Throughout the night, Chu Hen intercepted a total of 4 teams. He killed more than 10 people. Although each of these people was a well-trained master, Chu Hen's methods were so strong that no one had a chance to resist. All of them were killed in an instant, without the slightest hesitation. However, Chu Hen understood that these people weren't too great of a loss to them. The arrival of the day also meant that Chu Hen's next move would be even more inconvenient. I have to leave this place as soon as possible. Suddenly, from the corner of Chu Hen's eyes, his gaze abruptly stopped on the severed arm that had been chopped off. In his tightly clenched palm, there was a round pearl. Chu Hen raised his eyelids and condensed his palm, releasing a suction force. Xiao! The pearl immediately flew out of the severed arm's palm and fell into Chu Hen's hand. The pearl was about half the size of an egg, and there was a string of complicated runes engraved on its surface. Moreover, one could clearly sense a strange and obscure fluctuation within it. This is a communication rune through the talisman marking patterns on it. Chu Hen quickly determined that this was a device similar to a signal flare. As long as he crushed it, he could instantly notify the others to come and help. Looking at the round pearl in his hand, Chu Hen's eyes wandered, and he could not help but smile faintly. Whoosh! The cool waves crashed against the rocks on the shore, one after another. Islands of various sizes were connected, like a giant dragon lying on the surface of the sea. On the shore of the island, there was a giant flowing cloud ship that was more than 1,000 meters long and 200 meters tall, floating steadily in the water. It was different from the giant flowing cloud ship that carried people. This giant ship exuded an imposing aura similar to that of a warship. There were guards on the deck and the shore of the ship. Pairs of sharp and vigilant eyes scanned the surroundings like the sharp eyes of an eagle. A night has passed and we still haven't found that person's whereabouts? Inside the ship, in a cabin that was elegantly decorated in a classical style, 2 middle-aged men sat opposite each other, and there was a chessboard in front of them. On the chessboard, the black and white chess pieces were killing each other, and an invisible sharp aura could be seen. The person who spoke was a middle-aged man with snake-like eyes and a sinister face. He casually put down a white chess piece and looked sideways at Song Li. Reporting to Lord Inquan, I'm already searching with all my might. I believe there will be news soon. Song Li bowed slightly with his head lowered, and his tone was filled with reverence. Humph, a bunch of useless people, Inquan said coldly. Song Li's expression changed slightly, but he lowered his head and did not dare to speak. Inquan said again, that little thief, Chu Hen, was hit by Lord Qing Xiong's Tiangang palm. He definitely can't have gone far. Just ask your men to narrow down the search area. I understand. Song Li nodded respectfully, and at the same time, he looked at the person sitting opposite Inquan. It was a middle-aged man with a haggard body, and he was as skinny as a zombie. His strange appearance gave off a cold aura that made people afraid to approach him. The other party did not seem to be listening to their conversation. His sharp eyes were only staring at the chessboard in front of him, and the black chess piece in his hand was suspended in the air. Buzz buzz. Suddenly, a strange energy fluctuation was emitted from Song Li's body. Song Li raised his eyebrows, and with a flip of his hand, he took out a palm-sized square jade stone. The jade stone was marked with the 4 directions of north, south, east, and west. In the southwest direction, there was a flash of white light. I found it. Song Li's face was filled with joy, and he cupped his fists and said, Lord Qing Xiong, Lord Inquan, there's news from the southwest direction. I'll immediately bring some men to capture that thief. With that, Song Li hurriedly turned around and left. Wait! At this moment, Inquan shouted in a low voice, I'll go too. Song Li was stunned at first, but he immediately replied confidently, that little thief was hit by Lord Qing Xiong's palm, and I'm afraid he's on his last breath. Why would Lord Inquan need to go personally? However, Inquan replied indifferently, I've been out for long enough. I don't want to waste any more time. With that, Inquan turned to the haggard man and said, Elder Qing Xiong, let me come back and continue this game. Qing Xiong did not reply, and he continued to stare at the black and white chess pieces on the chessboard. Inquan did not say anything else, and he left the room with Song Li. Qing Xiong was the only one left in the room, and there was an indescribable silence. Clack! His arm, which had been stationary for a long time, moved, and the black chess piece in his hand landed steadily on the chessboard. Looks like there's no need to continue. The black chess piece was completed, and the white chess pieces on the chessboard seemed to form the word death. Hee, interesting. Looking at the twisted word death, Qing Xiong's face revealed a meaningful smile. This seemed to be a sign. Chapter 1045. Swoosh, swoosh, a gale swept past the shadows as they moved at lightning speed. More than 10 figures with extraordinary auras flashed in the air like streams of light. Lord Inquan, Lord Song Li, is over there. Suddenly, one of the guards exclaimed in surprise. The corners of everyone's eyes narrowed. Then, they turned around, leaving a series of afterimages in the air, and steadily landed. When he saw the scene in front of him, Song Li's expression changed, and he shouted in a deep voice, "This damned lowly be ****starred." The other wholly armored guards also frowned. It was a complete mess as a few trees exploded into pieces. 7 or 8 guards perished here, each and every one of them in a miserable state. I didn't expect this guy to have the ability to continue killing people. Song Li was secretly shocked. He thought that Chu Hen was seriously injured and was struggling at death's door. He didn't expect him to have such amazing combat power. Almost all of them were killed with one blow. His methods were clean and efficient. Song Li subconsciously looked at Inquan. The latter's face was calm, but there was a hint of coldness in his snake-like eyes. There's still someone alive here. The sudden shout attracted everyone's attention. Inquan and Song Li turned around to look. 2 guards surrounded a figure covered in blood and in a sorry state. That person's chest was a bloody mess and his face was covered in blood. His hair was messy and he looked like he was dying. It's Yang Qi from Squad 5. A guard stepped forward and flipped over Yang Qi's epaulette. After seeing the name on the epaulette, he spoke. At the same time, Song Li rushed over and pushed away the guards on both sides. He grabbed Yang Qi's collar and shouted in a deep voice, "Where's that thief?" In the face of Song Li's rude questioning, Yang Qi struggled for a while with a flustered look on his face. He mumbled a few words in a muffled voice. Just when everyone was confused, Yang Qi raised his trembling right hand and pointed to the depths of the forest. Chu Hen ran in that direction. "Go after him." Song Li did not say anything else. He shook off Yang Qi and rushed out with his men. Inquan glanced coldly at the corpses on the ground. His body also moved, causing a few fallen leaves to fly up as he disappeared on the spot. Everyone followed closely behind. 2 of the guards picked up the injured Yang Qi from the left and right sides and quickly followed behind. Hee, your 5th squad was actually annihilated. How pitiful. But you don't have to be sad. We'll catch that lowly thief soon. I believe he'll die a horrible death. The 2 guards laughed and made sarcastic remarks. On the other hand, Yang Qi silently lowered his head and looked at the crowd that had disappeared in front of him with a deep gaze. A tight contest seemed to be unfolding. The rapid rhythm of his movements created gusts of air currents. In the blink of an eye, they had already crossed 2 islands, passed through dense forests, and walked over cliffs. But they were still unable to trace Chu Hen. Many doubts arose in Song Li and the others' hearts. Was Chu Hen's escaping speed that fast? Or was he chasing in the wrong direction? Swoosh! His figure flickered, and the ancient Eternal Realm expert, Inquan, suddenly stopped and landed on the edge of a mountain. In front of him was a vast canyon. The steep rocks on both sides of the canyon were awe-inspiring, like eagles poking their heads out. Seeing that Inquan had stopped, Song Li and the others immediately stopped as well. "Lord Inquan, why did you stop?" Song Li bowed and asked. Inquan frowned slightly and replied coldly, The airflow in front is stable and the rhythm is not chaotic. It doesn't seem like anyone has been here for a while. Oh? Song Li was stunned at first. Then he turned around and said to the people behind him, "Bring him here." Soon after, the two guards brought Yang Qi, who had a weak aura, to Song Li again. "Did you see it clearly? Where did that thief, Chu Hen, run to?" Song Li asked sternly. Yang Qi clenched his fists, looking rather nervous. Yin Quan's eyes flashed with suspicion. As he walked towards Yang Qi, his invisible aura was like a mountain that made people unable to move. His torch-like eyes were surging with the dignity of an expert. "Tell me what happened when you saw Chu Hen." He. Yang Qi trembled like a bird startled by the mere twang of a bough. He's right there, right there?" Everyone's heart tightened. "He is right in front of you." In an instant, a crescent arc appeared on Yang Qi's blood-stained face. His eyes, which were no longer evading, shone like stars. An unparalleled majestic aura instantly erupted. The cold light of a sword shone on his eyebrows. There was no warning at all. Yin Quan's pupils shrank. The expressions of everyone present suddenly changed. TSK. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, a holy sword wrapped in dark blue lightning bolts pierced through the left side of Yin Quan's chest with a shocking momentum. Boom! The sky changed and the wind howled. Everyone was shocked. This sudden scene directly impacted everyone's visual nerve. He was not Yang Qi. At this moment, everyone suddenly came to their senses. Since the 5 squads were all annihilated, Chu Hen had no reason to leave anyone alive. Countless tentacles seemed to stretch out from the abyss of conspiracy, dragging everyone down. Boom! Before everyone could recover from their shock, the ground beneath them split open and exploded. Sharp lightning pillars that looked like huge wooden stakes shot out from the ground in all directions. TSK. Bang! The aura was majestic and full of destructive power. As the disorderly lightning pillars pierced through the ground, they also penetrated the bodies of the Light Sacred Clan guards. Blood splattered and screams reverberated. The wantonly moving lightning pillars and wooden stakes were like raging lightning pythons and flood dragons. More than 10 people were instantly killed on the spot. TSK. Dazzling electric arcs flickered all over Chu Hen's body. He looked coldly at Yin Quan's sinister and twisted face. The endless power of thunder and lightning flowed through the blue sky, soared and attacked the other party's major meridians. At the same time, the majestic lightning pillars firmly fixed Yin Quan's limbs like iron nails. Yin Quan's body trembled. His eyes were wide open and filled with intense anger and disbelief. Unexpected? Chu Hen indifferently smiled. The bloodstains on his face quietly faded, revealing a handsome and extraordinary young face. He looked at Yin Quan playfully and shook his head. "It seems that the so-called Light Sacred Clan is just a bunch of brainless things." Yin Quan was shocked and angry. What on earth was this? He was a dignified elder of the Light Sacred Clan, an ancient eternal realm expert, but he had been tricked by a little brat. Unforgivable. "Get out of my way!" Yin Quan shouted angrily. A monstrous aura that was as terrifying as a volcanic eruption surged out of his body. Bright red light patterns rapidly spread out from his body. Bang, 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 a series of sparks flew. The lightning pillars and wooden stakes that were nailed to Yin Quan's body were all shattered. However, at the same time, Chu Hen's eyes turned cold. He flipped his wrist, grabbed the hilt of the blue sky sword, and swept it outwards. Crack! Chapter 1046. Hiss! A rain of blood danced in the blue sky. A brilliant sword gleam flashed across his eyes. Its sharpness was unparalleled, and its aura was awe-inspiring. As the sky darkened, a complete shoulder was detached from Yin Quan's body, flung high into the sky, and fell down the mountain wall. Yin Quan's pupils constricted, and his face turned pale. The aura that erupted from him was instantly suppressed to the extreme. There were no miserable cries. There were no angry howls either. The only thing he felt was extreme unease and fear. At this moment, Quan felt as if he was standing in front of the Grim Reaper. He never would have imagined that a dignified ancient eternal realm expert like him would actually feel such fear towards a junior in the profound sky realm. Defeated, he had indeed fallen into a trap. There was no room for a comeback. Just because he was careless, the sword in Chu Hen's hand no longer gave him the slightest chance. It won't end so easily. Quan's ferocious eyes glowed red as he stared at Chu Hen's incomparably calm face. It won't end, it definitely won't. Chu Hen raised his eyebrows slightly, and his tone was indifferent. But you are already finished. Finished. As soon as these two words fell, with Quan as the center, a huge bolt of lightning shot out diagonally, like the shackles of a trapped beast, trapping Quan within. A dazzling light shone brightly, and the lightning blended together, emitting an endless amount of destructive energy. Quan's eyes, which were filled with despair, were then engulfed by the violent power of lightning. No, boom! Lightning splashed, dazzling and dazzling. As an incomparably violent energy surged and exploded, the mountains collapsed, the earth cracked, and the island trembled. Rubble flew everywhere, covering the sky and covering the earth. More than half of the mountain wall was blasted away, layer after layer of the stone wall was blown away. The corpses of the guards littered the ground, along with the ancient eternal expert Quan, disappeared without a trace. The chaotic cyclone that floated between heaven and earth spread wantonly. On the messy ground there was still a figure on the verge of death, curled up in a pile of rocks, trembling uneasily. Chu Hen's gaze turned, and he looked at the figure with interest. You chased me so hard back then, shouldn't it be your turn this time? This person was none other than Song Li. The entire team was wiped out. Chu Hen only spared Song Li's life. If you want to kill me, then kill me. Cut the crap, Song Li said viciously. I only hate that you escaped from under my nose. Otherwise, how could you be where you are today? Well said, Chu Hen replied faintly as he slowly walked towards the other party. With every step he took, Song Li could feel a huge pressure approaching him. Unconcealable fear was gradually revealed. However, Chu Hen stopped when he was less than 2 meters away from his opponent. His sharp gaze was as cold as a sharp sword. Where are the people who were with me? Song Li's expression changed slightly. He seemed to want to be tough, but when he met Chu Hen's eyes, he couldn't bring himself to be arrogant. No, I don't know, I'm not satisfied with this answer at all, Chu Hen said faintly. Song Li's heart skipped a beat and he replied again, I really don't know. According to the guards who returned, they lost track of the target after passing through a huge storm. Lost track of the target? Chu Hen couldn't help but narrow his eyes. In that case, Yi Yao, Mu Feng, and the rest didn't fall into the hands of these people. However, he didn't know if they encountered any accidents. However, on second thought, Shifeng Zi's strength was extraordinary, and he even had the protection of the immortal talisman's spiritual tree. With his power, it shouldn't be too big of a problem for him to escape. Chu Hen turned his gaze and stared at the other party again. Where is Senior Tuoba now? He's being held in the Atrium Prison. Atrium Prison? Chu Hen frowned. That's right. That's our clan's death row prison. If you dare to go there, only death awaits you. Chu Hen sneered. He slowly squatted down with a disdainful look on his face. I'll spare your life today, but you have to bring back a few words for me. No matter how powerful the Light Saint clan is, if you dare to harm Senior Tuoba's life, don't even think about getting that thing. Song Li's eyes flashed with doubt when he heard the words that thing. What do you want? Song Li asked in a deep voice. You don't have the right to know what I want, just like how you don't have the right to know what that thing is. Go back and tell your people that if Senior Tuoba injures a finger, don't even think about getting that thing. After he finished speaking, Chu Hen stood up and left, leaving behind a stunned Song Li. Song Li heaved a sigh of relief as he watched Chu Hen disappear into the canyon. However, his heart was filled with anxiety at the same time. He had never dreamed that this would happen. Yin Quan was killed just like that. He felt so vexed and aggrieved. When he returned, Song Li's face turned pale at the thought of facing Qin Xiong's cold, zombie-like face. After leaving in a hurry, Chu Hen entered an unfamiliar canyon. The vast gorge was surrounded by several islands. The rock walls on both sides were very steep. From time to time, giant lizards, rock pythons, and other monsters would crawl between the rock walls. If the others had left safely, they could meet up at the immortal Devil Tomb according to their previous agreement. When they were on the flowing cloud golden boat, Chu Hen had already made a copy of the map that Gu Yu had left for him. Everyone had a map on them, and they all knew the route. That was for sure. Chu Hen also didn't plan to turn back and launch a counterattack. After all, he had killed Yin Quan by catching him off guard and ambushing him. If he had fought them head-on, his chances of killing them would not have been more than 50%. Naturally, Chu Hen did not think there was anything wrong with such a despicable method. After all, surviving was the most important thing. Moreover, these people who called themselves the Light Saint clans did not seem to be very bright. As for the ancient Eternity Realm expert, judging from the palm attack in the sea storm that day, that person's cultivation level was even higher than Yin Quan's. He had most likely reached the 3rd level of the ancient realm. With Chu Hen's current cultivation level, he did not dare to face him head-on. Since he had already taken advantage of the situation, taking the opportunity to retreat was the best choice. Furthermore, after confirming that Tuoba Sha was still alive, Chu Hen was able to put down the huge stone in his heart. After all, there was a chance as long as he was alive. If Tuoba Sha had already been killed, Chu Hen would feel very guilty. Senior Tuoba, as long as I, Chu Hen, am not dead, I will find a way to save you one day. Chu Hen looked at the sky. His deep eyes were like rays of light that pierced through the clouds, passing through layers of obstacles and reaching the blue sky. Chapter 1047. Giant Crocodile City. The city was bustling with noise and heavy traffic. The streets were lined with luxurious high-rise buildings, and there were many crocodile-shaped sculptures in the city. This was the main city of Giant Crocodile Bay. It operated in a similar way to Whale Island City, with the city lord as the leader and several powerful families assisting him. After successfully evading the pursuit of the Light Saint clan, Chu Hen walked alone in the air above the sea for a few days. Although he encountered 2 convective storms, he still managed to reach the Giant Crocodile Bay after a few twists and turns. Looks like everyone didn't stop here. In the central plaza of the city, there was a huge fountain with a crocodile sculpture erected in the center. The crocodile sculpture was more than 300 meters long and 100 meters tall. It was vivid and lifelike, as if it was the guardian beast of this city. Chu Hen stood beside the fountain and looked up at the crocodile sculpture. His eyes flickered with a profound light. Although he had agreed to meet up with the others at the Immortal and Devil Tomb, they would pass by Giant Crocodile Bay on the way. There was no guarantee that they wouldn't stop here. Therefore, Chu Hen had been waiting here for 2 days. But he didn't meet anyone else. It's about time to leave. Buzz, a strand of faint chi ripple stirred up some dust on the ground. Chu Hen immediately disappeared from where he stood without a sound. However, it was as if the other citizens around the plaza did not notice him at all, and did not attract the slightest bit of attention. After leaving Giant Crocodile City, Chu Hen stepped into a strange plain. It was called strange because this area had green mountains and clear waters during the day, and the air was fresh. But at night, dust was everywhere and the wind was bone-chilling. What was even weirder was that before the sun set, there was still a lush green grassland. Once night fell, the grassland turned into a desert. The closer he got to the Immortal and Devil Tomb, the more obvious this phenomenon became. Howl! The melodious howl of a lone wolf came from the distant mountains, highlighting the tranquility of the bustling night. It was another night. The curtain of night gradually fell, like a black curtain slowly being pulled down. The sunset glow that had yet to completely fade emitted a faint halo in the sky. The mountains in the distance were very distinct, forming a dreamy arc. Chu Hen stood on top of a mountain wall, looking at the endless dark mountain dome. Unknowingly, more than 10 days had passed since they left Giant Crocodile City. Traveling alone, he couldn't help but feel a little lonely, as if he was in a foreign land. Especially when he saw the long road behind him, it felt like his mood had been extended infinitely. Chu Hen's speed was very fast, basically non-stop. Although it was only a dozen or so days of travel, for an ordinary person, it would take several months, or even a year. The later it got, the colder the wind became. This was a kind of coldness that seeped through the clothes and pierced into the bones. Yellow sand and dust filled the air, floating between heaven and earth. The moon in the sky seemed to be shrouded in a faint layer of red mist. Just as Chu Hen was walking on foot, the light from several bonfires shone from under the trees on the road ahead. Chu Hen couldn't help but be startled. He saw a few carriages parked on the side of the wide road in front of him, and the carriages were piled full of goods. A few figures surrounded the bonfire and chatted happily. "Grandpa, there's someone over there." A 12 or 13-year-old boy was the first to notice Chu Hen not far away. Everyone immediately stopped talking, and one by one, they looked in his direction with vigilance. But when they saw a handsome and gentle face reflected by the bright bonfire, the tense atmosphere immediately relaxed. "So it's a little brother, everyone, don't panic." The one who spoke was an old man in a long robe, and it was obvious that he was the leader here. He walked in front of Chu Hen and said, "Little brother, please forgive me for offending you just now." Chu Hen smiled slightly. "It's all right, I'm just passing by, you don't have to pay attention to me." "Little brother, where are you going so late at night? This is not a good place to go." Chu Hen hesitated for a moment, and then immediately asked, "Old man, do you know where the Tomb of Immortals and Demons is?" "Tomb of Immortals and Demons?" The old man's expression changed, and the others also looked at each other, all showing some surprise. "The Tomb of Immortals and Demons. Then all the more you shouldn't go. Little brother, you're still young, don't listen to the rumor that there are treasures in the Tomb of Immortals and Demons. Since ancient times, those who went to the Tomb of Immortals and Demons never came back, and only a slim chance of survival." It was obvious that the old man was very afraid of this place. He also directly advised Chu Hen. "Treasure?" Chu Hen was slightly stunned, and then smiled and said, "I have a very important matter to attend to in the Tomb of Immortals and Demons. If old man knows the specific location, you might as well tell me, this?" Seeing that Chu Hen did not show any signs of wavering, the old man immediately pointed in a direction and said, "Go straight ahead, and you'll enter the Tomb of Immortals and Demons in about 3 or 4 days. If you're fast, and there are no obstacles on the way, you can arrive in about 2 days." 3 or 4 days, Chu Hen murmured in a low voice. Chu Hen naturally knew the location of the Tomb of Immortals and Demons, but he just wanted to confirm how far he was from the destination. "But young man, I have to advise you, the Tomb of Immortals and Demons is not a good place. If it weren't for the fact that we have to feed our families, we wouldn't even want to pass through here," the old man said with a little fear. Chu Hen nodded and said, "Thank you for your advice. Grandpa, the meat is ready." At this time, the 12 or 13-year-old boy shouted, "Got it!" The old man responded, and then said to Chu Hen, "Young man, it is fate that brought us together. Moreover, it is inconvenient to travel at night, and the closer we get to the Tomb of Immortals and Demons, the more evil it will be. Why don't you rest here for a while before you go?" "No need." Chu Hen directly refused. "This?" The old man seemed a little embarrassed. "Little brother, why don't you eat a piece of roasted meat?" The boy raised a roasted leg of lamb, and walked in front of Chu Hen. His bright big eyes were filled with an innocence that people could not bear to reject. Yes, yes, yes. The old man also laughed and said, "Little snake, this child's roasted meat is something we can't stop praising. Try it." "Then give it a try." Chu Hen took the roasted meat, tore off a piece and put it in his mouth and said, "The taste is really good." Seeing Chu Hen eat the roasted meat, everyone smiled with satisfaction. "Oh yes, little snake? Why did you give him such a strange name?" Chu Hen asked casually. Because this child grew up alone, and he doesn't have many friends. He likes to play with snakes, so we call him Little Snake." "Oh? He likes to play with snakes?" "Yes. I have a snake as well. Little brother, do you want to see it?" Little Snake seemed to be very happy. As he spoke, he opened the bag tied to his waist, and then directly put his hand into it, and then said with an innocent smile, "Little brother, look. Little Hua is very beautiful." In the next moment, a colorful shadow darted out like a bolt of lightning. Almost at the same time, Chu Hen's pupils shrank, and then he opened his mouth slightly, and the piece of meat in his mouth shot out like a hidden weapon. Hiss! The two shadows collided, and the colorful little snake was directly cut into several pieces. "You?" The old man's expression changed. However, Chu Hen sneered, and as he threw away the lamb leg in his hands shot out like lightning, and directly grabbed the little snake's head. With a twist of his wrist, he twisted the head from front to back. However, to everyone's surprise, the boy, whose head had been twisted 360 degrees, did not die on the spot. Instead, a strange smile appeared on his face. Little brother, why did you spit out the meat? Is it because my roasted meat is not delicious?" Together with the increasingly sharp and strange smile, the boy's lips pulled up to his ears, and his innocent face immediately became incomparably ferocious. He opened his mouth, and a forked red tongue spat out. At the same time, gusts of incomparably swift and fierce palm winds assaulted him from behind. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and he raised his hands to push away the two people in front of him. Then, he leaped and dodged. "Ha ha! He! Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh!" Black shadows flashed, and shrill screams sounded like ghosts. The sky was filled with dust, and one after another, evil figures were moving around Chu Hen. Hua! Following that, a vast and mighty air wave spread out. Chu Hen was immediately surrounded by 7 cold figures that did not look like humans, nor did they look like ghosts. I did not expect you to be so cunning, you brat. You actually did not fall for it." The one who spoke was a man in black with disheveled hair. He held a scepter in his hand, and at the top of the scepter was the head of a lizard. It looked like the lizard's head was actually alive, and a pair of cold vertical pupils stared at Chu Hen. Little brat, you killed my Xiao Hua. I will skin you alive and throw you into a snake's nest." The hoarse and ear-piercing voice was extremely unpleasant to the ears. Just a moment ago, he was still an innocent child, but in the blink of an eye, he had turned into a monster with dark green skin and sharp teeth in his mouth. The other people's appearances were also extremely ugly. One was as tall as an ox, and his arms were sharp claws. The other was short, not even a meter tall, but his facial features were unusually large, and his mouth was full of rotten teeth. This appearance, even the legendary ghost children from hell were somewhat more normal. "What kind of monsters are you?" Chu Hen frowned slightly. "We will let you die knowing. We are the Black Prison's 7 devils," the man in black said coldly. "Black Prison's 7 devils? What were these things? What business do you have?" Chu Hen asked indifferently. Brat, don't you dare look down on us. I know you have some ability, but it is not like us 7 brothers have never killed an ancient realm expert, so? Very simple. We only want the heart of the Black Killer Divine Lightning and the immortal talisman spirit tree heart of the Black Killer Divine Lightning? Chu Hen's eyes trembled slightly. You know me. The 7 looked at each other and smiled, as if they were lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Chapter 1048. The dark prison's 7 devils came with ill intentions. A piercingly cold aura floated between heaven and earth along with frost-like dust. The silhouette of the deep mountains in the distance was particularly gloomy. The surrounding vegetation gradually sank into the ground, and a stretch of barren yellow sand slowly appeared. From the moment you entered Giant Crocodile City, you've already fallen into our hands. Let me tell you, we're not the only ones who have their eyes on you. If you want to live, obediently hand over what we want. Otherwise, the black-clothed man with disheveled hair said coldly, your corpse will be devoured by wild wolves until nothing is left. His cold voice was filled with a sharp threat. The lizard head on the scepter in his hand opened its mouth, revealing sharp fangs. Looking at the 7 ugly monsters that were neither human nor ghost, Chu Hen's face showed a hint of mockery. A hint of ridicule appeared on Chu Hen's face. Then, he raised his hand. Chi-chi. Along with the bright and dazzling light, a beautiful lightning power immediately blossomed from his palm. The eyes of the 7 devils lit up, each of them flashing with a fiery light. It's indeed worthy of being a top-grade spiritual divine item. The energy fluctuation is so amazing. The man with dark green skin, who looked like a snake demon, exclaimed. The others were moved. The man with a body as big as an ox and arms as sharp claws shouted in a deep voice, hand it over obediently, and I'll spare your life. Chu Hen sneered, then come and get it. Hey! The strong man also laughed sinisterly. Then, without saying a word, he really rushed to the front of Chu Hen in 2 steps, stretched out his arms, and grabbed towards Chu Hen. As you wish. Buzz, along with the sound of his voice, the strong man's claws suddenly became as huge as millstones. The sharp claws were like 10 converging scimitars, tearing the air apart and closing in on Chu Hen. Fierce lightning arcs flashed in Chu Hen's eyes, and then a violent electric light exploded in an instant. Boom! In the blink of an eye, a rain of lightning exploded in the dark night sky. Countless streaks of lightning pierced through all directions like sword shadows. A heavy explosion shook the sky full of rubble. A chaotic light wave of energy swept out. Chu Hen and the tall and sturdy man retreated. Humph! Little bastard, I'm going to crush your head! The muscular man shouted. The corners of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed slightly, but he was also secretly surprised. This monster's defensive strength was extremely shocking, especially its bestial arms. Even the profound Kshetra divine thunder could not penetrate it. One could see how strong its brute body was. Refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, the black-clothed man with the lizard staff said coldly. Bang! The scepter in his hand fell heavily to the ground. In the next moment, a deep fissure appeared on the ground. The fissure was like a slithering dragon, and it quickly spread to Chu Hen's feet, forming a fault. The spreading fault was like the gaping mouth of a fierce beast, emitting a chilling aura. Earth's flame! The black-clothed man shouted. Bang! Before he could finish speaking, an extremely hot and majestic airwave rose to the sky. Chu Hen's expression changed slightly. He immediately disappeared from his spot, leaving a series of afterimages in the air. Almost at the same time, red magma surged up to the sky like a tsunami from an erupting volcano. The fiery pillar that emitted an endless scorching aura roasted the ground red. Hee, be careful behind you! Before Chu Hen could regain his composure, a shrill, strange laughter resonated from behind him. Then, he saw a cloud of thick black mist surging toward him like a demon. A black shadow with a cold aura suddenly rushed out of the black mist like a ferocious ghost from hell. The black shadow's body was wrapped in strong, black chains. The chains gleamed coldly. Walala, in the next moment, more than a dozen strong and cold chains swung toward Chu Hen like the tentacles of an octopus. Humph! A sneer appeared on the corners of Chu Hen's mouth. He clenched his fist, and with a light hum, a gorgeous green sword shadow shot out explosively. The incomparably majestic aura was comparable to the rainbow after the rain. In an instant, the blue sky sword shone brilliantly, and it immediately transformed into a huge sword that slashed down. Bang, 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 the violent forces collided, and a myriad of sparks exploded in the air. The more than a dozen chains that stretched toward Chu Hen seemed to be struck by lightning, and they were successively split open by the unstoppable sword light. Your reaction is quite fast. Unfortunately, you're alone. Another complacent laughter sounded. A strange guard wearing simple armor, holding a round shield, and a white bone spear flashed to the front of Chu Hen. This person was tall and thin, and he had deep eye sockets. He gave off the feeling of an undead warrior. Surrender! The guard grinned and revealed a ferocious smile. The white bone spear in his hand shot straight down, and it burst out with an unstoppable momentum. Along with the sound of the air being torn apart, a hideous and terrifying evil ghost skeleton suddenly appeared in front of the spear tip. Ah! The cold wind howled. The skeleton opened its mouth and quickly bit toward Chu Hen. Chu Hen was not afraid in the slightest. He opened his left palm, and a surge of the majestic power of the 7 stars came out. The silver holy light in his palm flowed rapidly like spring water, and in an instant, it condensed into a flowing energy ball. Merak kill, boom! With a palm strike, the extremely violent power bombarded the evil ghost skeleton head-on. As soon as the two collided, the earth-shattering power spread in all directions like meteorites colliding. Ah! A sharp ghost howl reverberated in all directions. The violent power of the 7 stars was like an unstoppable torrent, directly crushing the evil ghost skeleton into pieces. And the tall and thin man dressed as an undead warrior was also shaken by the impact and repeatedly retreated. But just as the other party said, Chu Hen was only one person, while the other party had 7 people. At the same time that Chu Hen repelled the tall and thin man, the strong man with a pair of beast arms suddenly roared and leaped up like a violent giant ape, directly flashing above Chu Hen's head. Little bastard, get down. The strong man's roar shook the sky, and his arms rapidly expanded. The amazing arms were like 2 stone pillars supporting a palace, and his palms were like 2 huge millstones. The strong man closed his palms and fiercely smashed toward Chu Hen with a tomahawk style. The terrifying momentum was like a mountain, comparable to the fall of a meteorite. Chu Hen did not have any time to dodge. In a hurry, he hurriedly crossed his arms to block. Bang! A heavy loud sound rang in the sky, and a circle of majestic waves surged in all directions. Chu Hen was like a cannonball that was hit and flew diagonally across the sky, smashing heavily on the ground. Bang! The earth split open and rocks fell everywhere. The huge impact instantly caused a deep depression in the ground. Layers of gravel flew around like a swarm of locusts, wantonly splashing everywhere. Old 5. At this time, the man in black with disheveled hair and a lizard staff in his hand shouted in a deep voice. I've been waiting for a long time. A figure hidden in the darkness, with eyes shining with a dark green light, let out a cold laugh. At the same time, a majestic Reiki energy spread out, and circles of golden light quickly spread out on the ground. Only to see that the ground quickly unfolded one after another mysterious and unpredictable runes. 6 gates seal, boom! In an instant the earth trembled, and the stone cracks cracked open. An ancient door suddenly rose in front of Chu Hen. The ancient door was painted with dark red paint, and strange runes danced like dragons and phoenixes, like an ancient and mysterious power. Not waiting for Chu Hen to make a response. Bang, 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 with a series of loud sounds, with Chu Hen as the center, another 5 doors quickly rose from other directions. A strange aura spread out wantonly. 6 ancient doors that were more than 100 meters tall directly surrounded Chu Hen, and a strong suppressive aura attacked from all directions. Chu Hen was like a trapped beast, and he suddenly felt that his body and mind were under great pressure, and even his blood seemed to become restless. Ka. Then, the 6 doors opened at the same time. It was like a seal that had been opened, and 6 dark and cold figures occupied each of the doors, and their cold eyes stared at Chu Hen in the middle, full of ridicule. Hee hee. Ha ha. Laughter filled with thick complacency drilled into Chu Hen's ears from all directions. Chu Hen only felt inexplicably irritated, and a strong negative emotion was like a rapidly growing bud, constantly taking root in his heart. Looking at the 6 ugly faces blocking the door, Chu Hen's eyebrows surged with a trace of coldness. All of you scram, scram? Low like a beast's roar, the aura on Chu Hen's body became exceptionally cold. Hee hee. However, the dark prison's 7 devils only laughed wantonly. The sound they made was like a demonic sound that continuously invaded Chu Hen's mind. This kind of sound seemed to be able to disturb one's rationality, and gradually make one fall into a state of madness and trance. And once one's mind was in chaos, it also meant that one would lose without a fight. Ha 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 ha. Surrender. No one can rush out of our evil sound formation. The man in black with disheveled hair and a lizard staff in his hand looked at the absent-minded Chu Hen in front of him with a playful expression. This evil sound formation was a sound wave attack created by the dark prison's 7 devils. Using the attack caused by the sound wave to invade one's mind, disturb one's rationality, and continuously provoke the other party's negative emotions. Once the negative emotions reached a certain level, it would cause one to be extremely irritated. The irritated person would lose his mind. This also meant death. All kinds of overlapping strange laughter were like sharp weapons rubbing against one's ear. Chu Hen only felt that his brain was about to split open, the blood in his body gradually boiled, his eyes were bloodshot, and the uncontrollable killing intent began to break through the shackles in his body. You are courting death, every word was like ice, chilling to the bone. The surrounding people were slightly shocked. They suddenly realized that the aura on Chu Hen's body had already reached an extremely cold level. This was killing intent. The killing intent was real and unmistakable. Big brother, there's something wrong with this guy. The green-skinned snake monster said to the man in black with the lizard staff in a deep voice. Under normal circumstances, the other party's mind would have already collapsed. However, Chu Hen was so cold that it made people feel uneasy. Feeling the increasingly cold aura of Chu Hen, the man in black frowned again and again. Then, his eyelids twitched and he shouted loudly, "Stop quickly! We've awakened his heart of slaughter, heart of slaughter!" At the same time, a monstrous evil aura suddenly erupted from Chu Hen's body. Buzz buzz, the incomparably strong space rhythm caused the souls of the surrounding people to tremble. Like a torrent that had broken through a dam after being suppressed for a long time, under the violent wind, a scarlet blood aura surged out from Chu Hen's body. Thousands of blood streaks of light were like a domineering astral wind that soared to the sky. The corner of Chu Hen's mouth raised slightly, and the arc that appeared was like the scythe in the hands of the Grim Reaper. He looked at the shocked people, full of mockery. "Is it not good to be alive?" Boom, the earth exploded, and the red waves soared to the sky. Chapter 1049. Boom, the earth exploded, and a monstrous crimson wave soared into the sky. A terrifying energy that was vast like the sea instantly erupted like a volcano that had been silent for 10,000 years. Boundless, ferocious and evil aura spread out in all directions, and the unsuppressible energy of slaughter was comparable to a flood and ferocious beast, causing the earth to crack and the sky to shake in an instant. The 6 doors that emitted a simple and unadorned aura were directly blasted into pieces. The sky was filled with splashes of light and shadows, mixed with an incomparably powerful wave of chi, swept out. The already sunken ground once again collapsed layer by layer, breaking inch by inch. The wanton cracks were like a huge spider web that extended infinitely. What? Ol Wu, who was hiding in the dark, turned pale with fright. The 6 gates seal, that he was so proud of, was actually broken in an instant. But what shocked him even more was that apart from the demonic aura of death, he could no longer feel the vitality of the other 6 people. Big brother. Second brother, OL6, OL7. You guys. Before he finished speaking, a muffled bang sound was heard, and a surging, piercingly cold airflow rushed towards him. The fierce wind was like a sharp blade, and OL Wu was suppressed to the point that he could not move, and his body was instantly covered in blood and flesh. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Like the sharp sound of cutting meat and vegetables, a few broken bodies were thrown on the ground in a disorderly manner. Under the strange blood mist, Chu Hen's slender figure was like the grim reaper from hell, and the curved corners of his mouth were like a sickle, evil and sharp. Hee. An ethereal and dreamy voice reverberated between heaven and earth, like the mocking laughter of an evil god. Looking at the miserable corpses on the ground, OL Wu's face changed drastically, and his eyes were filled with deep fear. Dark prison 7 devils. 6 of them died in an instant, and they didn't even see how they died. Don't come over. At this moment, in OL Wu's eyes, Chu Hen was the most terrifying species in the world. However, Chu Hen approached step by step, neither fast nor slow, and was so calm that it was terrifying. But when the distance between the two was less than 2 meters, Chu Hen's abyss-like black pupils were like a whirlpool that dragged the other party into eternal hell. The dim light reflected their slanted shadows. Behind Chu Hen, a swift and fierce sickle shadow slowly rose up. Hiss! The sharp weapon slashed through the air and blood rained down. The body of the last member of the dark prison 7 fiends was directly cut into 2. The hurried and short scream highlighted the desolate silence of the night. The entire place was in a mess, and it was too horrible to look at. Buzz buzz. After killing 7 people in a row, Chu Hen's mind trembled slightly. Then, an endless stream of blood-red light spread out from his body. Chu Hen furrowed his brows and released another demonic purple light. Get lost! The demonic purple light was like a bone-scorching flame. It quickly climbed up the blood-red light and enveloped it, forcing it to retreat. However, the blood-red light did not seem to be willing to give up just like that. Increasingly violent energy waves spread out and occupied Chu Hen's body. Damn it, Chu Hen was secretly shocked. He did not know why such a situation had occurred, but he was sure that he should not stay here for long. The closer he was to the tomb of the immortal and devil, the more unpredictable situations he would encounter. Apart from the 7 fiends of dark prison, it was hard to guarantee that he would not be targeted by others. Go! Immediately, Chu Hen did not stay where he was. He directly turned into a shadow and disappeared into the boundless night. Woo! Towering mountains and precipitous ridges. The forest was as deep as the sea. As he approached the tomb of the immortal and devil, he could almost smell the dangerous atmosphere in the air. However, for the current Chu Hen, his own condition seemed to be more worrying. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Shuttling through the forest, Chu Hen's movement speed gradually slowed down. All kinds of negative states were like 1,000-year-old vines that entangled him and made it difficult for him to breathe. A manic heart, a struggling soul, and boiling blood. Chu Hen's body was like a ferocious, bloodthirsty beast, and this beast seemed to have found a gap and was forcibly breaking through the shackles. Ah! A low roar came from Chu Hen's throat. Unknowingly, the blood vessels in his arms had already bulged, and his eyes were glowing with scarlet light. This feeling reminded him of the time when he was in the Xiankshetra sky region and the Thunder Saint Palace. Thirst for killing. The internal struggle made Chu Hen's head start to become dizzy, and his overall state continued to weaken. Finally, after persisting for a few hours, Chu Hen's legs could not help but give way, and his vision went black. Bang! He fell to the ground with a sound. Bloody wind and rain, the sky was dark. This was a blood-red world of slaughter. White bones piled up like mountains, and scarlet blood gathered into rivers. A round blood moon loomed behind the dark clouds. This was a sure space that made people shudder. White bones covered Chu Hen's feet, and the black eye sockets of the skeletons emitted a shuddering aura. In front of the bones was an open-air hall. The hall was luxurious like a dream. The floor was paved with black crystals, and the brick and stone walls exuded an ancient aura. Stone pillars that supported the sky extended to both sides, and mysterious patterns of demons dancing were carved on them. At the upper end of the hall, a huge figure sat on a spacious stone throne. He leaned against the side of the stone throne, one hand supporting his chin as if he was sleeping. The other hand rested on the throne, and a huge four-leaf sickle rested between his fingers. The sickle was soaked in blood, and it emitted an endless aura of death. The figure looked like a human, but his face was especially sinister and terrifying. His long white hair draped over his shoulders. Anyone who saw him would feel like a mayfly trying to shake a tree. All things in the world, including billions of living beings, were just lowly ants in front of him. "We meet again." An ethereal and heavy voice directly invaded Chu Hen's soul. In the next instant, the god of evil sitting on the stone throne slowly raised his eyelids. In an instant, a pair of eyes that were as black as ink, without a trace of white, were like endless black whirlpools, as if even a person's soul would be swallowed by them. Chu Hen's mind trembled. He was like a commoner standing in front of an emperor, showing his weakness. The god of evil looked at Chu Hen in front of him. His voice was calm, but it had a kind of magic that could not be rejected. "Do you desire power?" "Power." Everyone in the world yearned for it. "Then give me your soul." The god of evil slowly raised his palm, as if issuing a solemn invitation. "I will let you stand at the peak of this world, and the whole world will bow down to you, not to be rejected, not to be resisted." Chu Hen's mind seemed to have fallen into a boundless ocean. There was no shore around him, and in front of him was only the god of evil. Buzz, buzz. A faint spatial rhythm appeared between the heavens and the earth. There seemed to be a hazy, chaotic world of darkness behind Chu Hen, which was completely different from the blood azure world in front of him. In that boundless darkness, a pair of huge, dark eyes gradually appeared. Mysterious and unfathomable, both real and fake, the huge dark eyes quietly stared at Chu Hen, who was standing in front of the god of evil. It was not noticed, and it was not known by anyone, and Chu Hen, who was staring at the god of evil, gradually sank into it. Chapter 1050. Buzz, mysterious and unfathomable, like a dream. The chaotic world was like the vast and endless universe. The strange spatial rhythm was like little ripples appearing in the air. It endlessly invaded Chu Hen's mind, and poured into the depths of his soul. "You will become the pinnacle master of this world. The entire world will bow down to you." It was an irresistible invitation. The god of evil slowly raised his right hand and opened it toward Chu Hen, like a flat and vast path leading to the heavens. His pitch-black eyes were like a black abyss, like a black whirlpool, as if he wanted to drag Chu Hen's soul into a bottomless swamp. The power of Chitian, the power of the god of evil. Standing in front of this god of evil, Chu Hen felt like he was facing an insurmountable, absolute power. "I agree." Chu Hen's eyes flashed with a fiery luster. "Kiki." The god of evil laughed, and the curve of his lips was as sharp as the blood-colored scythe in his hand. Boom! In an instant the sky changed, and the earth collapsed. The path of corpses under Chu Hen's feet violently shook. Each and every one of the empty eye sockets of the skeletons surged with a strange blood-red light. Countless rays of dense red light gushed out, as if they were blood-red vines from hell. They coiled towards Chu Hen from all directions. Buzz! Chu Hen's mind trembled, and his entire body felt as if it had been struck by a powerful electric current. All the meridians in his body opened up, and waves of incomparably powerful evil power began to surge, like rivers flowing into the sea. After a brief moment of discomfort, Chu Hen began to enjoy it. A strange smile slowly bloomed on his face, and a trace of demonic bloody light flashed in his eyes. The vicious beast in his heart was about to break out of its shackles. Ha 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 ha! The god of evil laughed wildly. He looked at Chu Hen as if he was looking at his favorite general. The heart of slaughter will eventually awaken. The power of Qitian will slaughter the world with blood. Buzz! The vast, tide-like momentum was like landslides and tsunamis. Then, more than 10 towering pillars of blood shot up into the sky in front of the heretic god. Bear this god's power! The huge blood-red scythe swung horizontally. Accompanied by the power to split the heavens and the earth, an incomparably strange six-pointed star formation suddenly appeared under Chu Hen's feet. The astral formation was formed by the outline of blood patterns. Chu Hen stood at the center of the grand formation, and he emanated an awe-inspiring evil aura and revealed a wild and untamed aura. Bang, bang, bang! Following that, beams of light that were hundreds of thousands of feet tall rose up one after another along the runes of the starlight array. Chu Hen felt as if he had fallen into a whirlpool of storms, with countless terrifying forces swirling around him. Chu Hen spread his arms, and his extraordinarily handsome face exuded an arrogance that was completely different from his usual self. Suddenly, right at this moment, a light rhythm that was like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water entered Chu Hen's ears. The faint ripple was like a ripple in the bottom of one's heart. Although it was small, it had a strange power that touched one's heart. This is? Chu Hen couldn't help but be startled, and his ice-cold gaze was suddenly filled with a trace of surprise. Following that, the light rhythm became clearer and clearer, turning into a melodious rhythm that was as soft as water, as light as a stream, and entered Chu Hen's mind. It was like a guiding light in the darkness. Chu Hen's heartstrings trembled violently. It was as if a ray of light had sprinkled down in the boundless darkness, and his drowsy soul was instantly awakened. Rumble! The moment his consciousness became clear, the six-pointed star formation under Chu Hen's feet suddenly cracked, and instantly stopped operating. Following that, the earth collapsed and the sky collapsed. A rapidly expanding chasm appeared between Chu Hen and the heretic god. The distance between the two kept increasing, and the huge ravine in the middle was like two shores. The heretic god's pitch-black pupils were like two wormholes that disappeared into the chaotic universe, deep, dark, cold, and mysterious. At the same time that the entire world collapsed, Chu Hen suddenly woke up, like a person who had broken free from a nightmare. The moment he opened his eyes, a beam of brilliant sunlight sprinkled on his face. It wasn't dazzling, but resplendent. The fresh forest air had a faint sweet smell. The memories from before he fainted came rushing back like a tide. Chu Hen couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. It was really dangerous. He didn't expect that after a few months, he would meet the heretic god again. Was that a dream? Or did he really go to another alternate dimension? Chu Hen couldn't help but feel puzzled. This is... Before Chu Hen could calm his mind, a wisp of rhythm drifted in the air and entered his ears. This sound. I heard it just now. Chu Hen was stunned. When he was trapped in the heretic god's nightmare, he heard a slight rhythm. It was also that slight rhythm that awakened his rational consciousness at the critical moment. With some doubts, Chu Hen slowly stood up and began to search in the direction of the rhythm. The gentle rhythm was as gentle as the spring breeze. This was the sound produced by the strings of a zither. The more he listened carefully, the calmer Chu Hen's heart became. His restless state of mind was quickly soothed. The lingering uneasiness from the nightmare had also been washed away. Soon, Chu Hen found the source of the zither sound. What appeared in front of him was a beautiful lake. The lake was located in the forest. The water was clear and the bottom could be seen. A peerlessly beautiful figure was sitting on the surface of the lake in the middle of the lake. Chu Hen couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. The figure was facing him. Her beautiful long hair was as soft as ink, and she wore a long white dress. Her temperament was out of this world, like a lotus blooming on the surface of the water. Her slender fingers were as white as jade, slender and exquisite. Her nimble fingertips plucked a 7-stringed zither in front of her. Looking closely, the 7-stringed zither was not a real thing, but a long zither made of water. The 7 water-patterned strings were gently plucked, producing an intoxicating melody. He had to admit that this was an extremely intoxicating scene. Some people's temperament seemed to be innate. It was like a beautiful melody that touched one's heart. Who was the other party? Why was she here? Chu Hen's heart was filled with confusion. Almost as soon as Chu Hen appeared, the heavenly melody came to an abrupt end. She gently touched the last string of the zither. Then, the zither in her hand broke into a ball of clear water and fell into the lake. Chu Hen was slightly stunned. Then, he looked up and said apologetically, "I didn't mean to disturb you. If I offended you, please forgive me." However, the person didn't seem to care. She still had her back facing him. "If you are too far away from home, you will forget your hometown. If you kill too many people, you will forget yourself. If you have too many inner demons, you will be lost." The soft voice was as clear as water. Chapter 1051. If you are too far from home, you will forget your hometown. If you kill too many people, you will forget yourself. If you have too many inner demons, you will be lost. The other party's voice was as clear as the wind, as calm as water, with an indescribable clarity. The gentleness between the words was like a stream of spring water that flowed into Chu Hen's heart, touching his heartstrings. However, what surprised Chu Hen even more was the words that the other party said. "How could you? You are a passerby." The other party replied faintly. She still didn't look back. The bright sunlight sprinkled on the lake, and the gorgeous soft light surrounded her. The figure was as beautiful as a fairy in the mortal world. "A passerby?" Chu Hen raised his eyebrows, and his eyes couldn't help but show some gratitude. Yesterday, he was besieged by the dark prison 7 devils. During the fight, he was disturbed by the other party's evil sound formation, which awakened the killing heart that he had been suppressing. Qi Tianling's mischief once again summoned the Diablo from another dimension. At the critical moment, it was the person in front of him who awakened his consciousness with the sound of the zither, thus breaking free from the control of the Diablo. "I'm Chu Hen, thank you for helping me." Before he could finish his words of thanks, Chu Hen was startled. He saw that the figure that was just in front of him had already disappeared without a trace. At a glance, the entire surface of the lake was empty. A faint breeze brushed past, causing little ripples. Even the rhythm of the airflow in the air didn't change much. Disappeared? A trace of confusion flashed in Chu Hen's eyes. Feeling the silence around him, he couldn't help but wonder if he was hallucinating just now. "Don't tell me I'm not awake yet?" Muttering to himself, Chu Hen patted his face and subconsciously shook his head. Even though his mind wasn't particularly clear right now, he could still be considered clear-headed. If you are too far from home, you will forget your hometown. If you kill too many people, you will forget yourself, Chu Hen muttered to himself in a low voice. His somewhat serious gaze revealed a trace of profoundness. The side effects of Qi Tianling were becoming more and more obvious, and it was becoming more and more difficult to control. Back in the ancient desolate heaven realm, the sacred wing heavenly flame sparrow had clearly explained the origins of this item. Qi Tianling came from an alternate dimension called the godly forbidden blood prison. In the blood prison, the source of great calamity, the lord of all evil, gathered. In that place, slaughter ruled over everything, and destruction was the main way of kings. It was a hellish place where all living things wailed. Those who obtained the Qitian token could pry into the power of the fiend gods and use their blood as a sacrifice to obtain the power of the fiend gods, but the heretical god force was born from slaughter, and it was born from destruction. The more one killed, the stronger the heretical god force would be, and the faster one's cultivation would grow. But at the same time as one obtained this transcendent power, It would also cause their heart demons to constantly expand and grow. The heretical god force was something that no one could control. The result was usually being corroded by the evil aura and falling into the path of the devil, becoming the slave of the evil god. There were 2 reasons why Chu Hen had decided to activate the Qitian token. Another reason was that he was in a hurry to escape the dragon burial ground. If he hadn't escaped at that time, it was very likely that he would still be trapped in that seal, and he would be accompanied by that dragon skeleton for thousands of years to come. The second reason was because of the limits of the demon Eye bloodline. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow had said that the heretical god force was powerful, but it was only through the Qitian token that it could control Chu Hen. In the later stages, the demon Eye sacred physique bloodline had a high chance of suppressing this power of slaughter. He had originally planned to use the Qitian token's power to break the seal of the land of the buried dragon. In the future, he would never touch that power again. But man proposes, God disposes. It was as if the heavens had carefully designed the situation. What happened later, in just a few months, had caused the blood of millions of people on Chu Hen's side. Even though he had left the victorious East State. But the slaughter had continued until now. From Whale Island City, to the interception of the light sacred clan halfway, to the dark prison 7 devils last night, the continuous harvesting had been feeding the sleeping beast in his body. Perhaps I still need to raise my cultivation, or I won't be able to suppress the Qitian token. Chu Hen thought to himself. Even though too many things had not gone his way, if he had to make a choice again, Chu Hen would still activate the Qitian token. After all, he had no choice back then. Forget it, I'll take it one step at a time. I don't know when she will wake up. At least she can give me some advice. Chu Hen slightly composed himself. He felt the still silent aura within his violet palace of true Yuan. In his mind, a slender figure that was like a glimpse of a graceful swan couldn't help but appear. It was so breathtaking that it was hard to forget. Remember, don't use that power again. In the future, you'll have to rely on yourself. I hope you can amaze me the next time we meet. Her red lips parted slightly, more dazzling than the snow lotuses in the sky full of flying snow. Their eyes met, and 10,000 years passed in a single glance. Prosperity fell, and dust filled the sky. That was the first time Chu Hen had seen the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow's human form. It was like a footprint left in the snow, shallow and deep, white and pure. I still have a lot of things to do. I'm afraid I can't be controlled by you so quickly, evil god. The corner of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed, and a decisive and domineering aura surged out from between his brows. Buzz. The Qitian token seemed to have a reaction, and actually had a slight rhythm, as if it was expressing its mockery towards Chu Hen. He sorted out his chaotic emotions a little. Chu Hen did not stay here for long. After identifying the direction, he stepped into the air and headed towards the darker forest ahead. After nearly 2 days of rushing, Chu Hen stepped into the tomb of immortals and devils. As soon as he stepped into this area, a dark current of air rushed towards him. White bones could be seen everywhere, some of them belonging to giant beasts, and some to humans. All kinds of strange evil plants were hidden in the bushes, and on the banks of the river, there were strange crocodiles that were hundreds of meters long. There was a dangerous aura coming from all directions. A layer of hazy gray fog floated in the sky, and even the scorching sun could not penetrate it. One could only see a faint outline. It's really a strange place. I wonder if Mengchang will be here. Chu Hen frowned slightly, and his heart became a little solemn. He hoped to find Luo Mengchang as soon as possible, but he also hoped that she would be safe. Immediately, Chu Hen went straight to the depths of the tomb of immortals and devils, and at the same time, fully released his perception to search everywhere. The deeper he went into the tomb of immortals and devils, the more strange Chu Hen felt. There seemed to be a murderous intent in the air that had not dissipated even after a long time of wind and rain. A huge cliff lay in front of Chu Hen. This cliff was actually split from the middle by a sword, and the cliff walls were sharp and neat, all kinds of vast ravines that traversed the two places also glowed with a kind of sharpness. Glancing over, one could even find a few broken spears and halberds in the cracks of the stones. Every inch of land here seemed to be telling the story of the years of fierce battles that no one knew about. The tomb of immortals and devils, where immortals and devils were buried. From time to time, there were a few beast roars coming from the deep mountains in the distance. Chu Hen could feel that there were a few fierce auras in the depths of the forest below locking onto him. Looking at the faint blood-red sky in front of him, Chu Hen felt a little uneasy in his heart. Did the others come here again? He did not know. Immediately, Chu Hen continued to expand the scope of his search, and the mighty perception spread out like a tide, and the movements within a radius of dozens of miles came one after another. About half an hour later, Chu Hen's eyes suddenly lit up, and he suddenly sensed a familiar aura. Found it. Following the direction that he had locked on to, Chu Hen moved forward at an extremely fast speed. Soon, a violent force surged in front of him. Boom! Bang! The mountains collapsed, the ground cracked, and the forest was swept away. The first thing that entered Chu Hen's eyes was a huge monster. It was a heavily armored monster with 4 pairs of pincers on its back. It swept in all directions at the same time. The body of the armored beast was hundreds of feet long, and its face was ferocious. The terrifying force wantonly rushed down, the earth cracked, the mountain walls were cut, and several monsters nearby were directly hit and sent flying. At this moment, in front of the giant beast, a figure in a sorry state was fleeing randomly, and the biting cold wind swept over, the figure jumped up and down. Han Ichuan. Chu Hen rushed over, and his eyes lit up. He finally found them. However, Han Ichuan, who was in chaos, did not notice the arrival of Chu Hen, and all kinds of chaotic dodges were dodging the fierce attacks of the giant beast. Swish! The air was torn apart, and a pincer covered with barbs swept over like the scythe of the grim reaper. Damn it! Han Ichuan's face changed, and he quickly fell to the ground to dodge. Boom! Rocks collapsed, and the ground in front of Han Ichuan suddenly had a deep ditch of tens of meters wide. Hee. The armored beast let out a strange scream, and its mountain-like body instantly pounced in front of Han Ichuan, and 2 saw pincers attacked him from the left and right. Han Ichuan's face was pale, and he shouted loudly. But at that moment there was a violent and heavy explosion, and a brilliant flash of lightning blossomed in the air like a rain of fireworks. Tens of thousands of lightning rays spread in all directions, and the shelled giant beast was directly sent flying a few dozen meters away. Han Ichuan's pupils shrank, and he saw a familiar back suddenly appeared in front of him. Chu Hen, you're finally here. The other party looked as if he had seen his savior, and immediately heaved a sigh of relief. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and he said sideways, "You step back first, Zeng." A beam of green light flashed, and the blue Ran sword immediately swept into Chu Hen's hand. He held the holy sword diagonally, and with a move of his palm, dense bright electric arcs quickly climbed up the sword body, and endless biting cold air swept out. Hee. The armored beast stared coldly at Chu Hen, and there was no fear in its eyes, but it was filled with madness. Humph! Just as Chu Hen was about to launch an attack, Han Ichuan suddenly shouted from behind, Don't kill it, don't kill it!" Chu Hen was stunned.